All right, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. I know it is a busy night on the streets of YouTube. Everybody has got their pet case that they're following, or the big events in the Sebastian Rogers case. And I don't know, maybe there's even some Charlie Adelson discussions happening. But what I want to do is I want to watch opening statements and the first witnesses in the trial of Sarah Boone. And so that is what I'm going to be doing. And I'm sure that most of you have already seen this because I don't know, maybe you haven't, but I haven't seen it because I worked all day. And so this is my turn now to see what happened with opening statements and how everything went. I think um I think it's important to remember that as we listen, not so much to opening statements, but as we start listening to the witnesses, I think we have to keep in mind, listen for the historical information, right? The information about Sarah that was before George. The reason I say that is that we know that in terms of just purely descriptive DSM-5 information, she's given a pretty good indication of someone with histrionic personality disorder with narcissistic features. Doesn't mean she has it, and we will have a psychologist on the stand that will tell us what the testing and assessment showed. But just going through the descriptives, she's pretty consistent picture with someone with histrionic personality disorder. Um, but the reason that I say that as we go through and start listening to witnesses, I think it becomes really important to pay attention to what these witnesses are saying about Sarah historically before George or in relationships outside of George. You're looking for a consistency of a pattern, right? If these behaviors that she's demonstrating are more of a trauma reaction, she might only be doing it only with George. But if we see that she's doing it before she got in the relationship with George or in more mundane relationships without passion and such, like screaming at the lady at the grocery store checking out her groceries, then you begin to say, oh, no, no, no. It's established pattern of behavior. It looks more like a personality disorder than trauma reaction. All right. Okay, so I hope everybody's doing well. Kathy, it's good to see you. Much endeavors. DB, I hope you all are doing very well. Today was intense with the new information, like her text. Well, DB, that's what I was actually saying, is that I worked all day, and so I am just now getting to the trial. So everybody else is way ahead of me. So I'm going to listen to opening statements. I invite you to stay and listen with me. You know me, I'm going to end up having to stop and make comments as it goes on. And I may just have to stop and chuckle a little bit, but that'll be okay. So if you wish to stay with me and watch with me, I certainly would welcome the company. If you prefer to go on and watch some of the discussion channels and such, I understand. All right. Okay, so we'll get this show on the road, and I'm going to also try. I'm going to try to take out some of the downtime sidebars, things like that. Okay, so here we go.
Those statements that they're going to provide. But remember, these are not evidence. This is just the party's belief as to what the facts and the evidence will show in this case. After the conclusion of the opening statements, we'll begin with the state's case in chief through witnesses. With that, Mr. J, you may proceed, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, what the evidence in this case is going to show you is that this defendant zipped Jorge Torres shot in the this because at the time of his death, he only weighed 103 pounds. And she did this with the malicious intent to punish him. And then she went to sleep and left him to take his final breaths on this earth alone. How many breaths those were, we don't know. The evidence is going to show that it was at least for about 15 minutes, because there's going to be 2 videos that the defendant herself took of this event. Evidence is going to show
My goodness.
is dead because in this defendant's judgment, he usurped. Now, the conscious disregard for whether he lived or died.
Y'all, the sound is god awful, isn't it? Wow. This is 2024, people. I think you guys do a little bit better with your audio equipment. This is ridiculous. All right, I got to put my headphones on because I can't make out a single word that man is saying. Wow. That is crazy.
You will see here.
Yeah.
What I expect you will hear from a video that began at 11:12 p.m., 45 seconds, on February 23rd, 2020, in Orange County, Florida, is a suitcase on the ground, face down, with the zippers facing the floor. You will hear Sarah, the defendant will say, "For everything you've done to me." Sarah, "For everything you've done to me." Sarah, "Fuck you." And the defendant laughs. Sarah,
That's
"Fuck
brutal.
you." And the defendant laughs. Sarah, "Stupid." Sarah,
That's right,
"That's
girl.
my name. Don't wear it out."
You're the one that said all
Sarah,
about it,
"I
recorded
can't
it.
fucking breathe, baby. Seriously." "Yeah, that's what you do when you choke me." Sarah, Sarah, Sarah.
So sad.
Defendant laughs again. "Sarah, I can't breathe, babe." She laughs again. "That's on you." Sarah, "I can't breathe."
She is
She
cold.
laughs again.
She is cold as ice, isn't she?
Unintelligible
Wow.
words. And I would submit the evidence is going to show, because of the intoxication from alcohol, is the next thing she says. Sarah, 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 "I can't breathe, baby." "That's what I feel like when you cheat on me." Sarah, "Fuck you." "I can't fucking breathe, Sarah." "You should probably shut the fuck up." Sarah, "Shh," is the last thing you will hear the defendant say to Mr. Torres as he is face down, zipped shut in a suitcase. That, again, began at 11:12:45 and lasts just over 2 minutes. At 11:23 and 3 seconds p.m., there's a second 22-second video, and it's the defendant zooming in on the suitcase. And all you hear during this 22 seconds, after he's been in this suitcase since at least 11:12 p.m., is one more time, Sarah.
Horrifying. Absolutely horrifying.
How did we get to this point where 103-pound George Torres gone? Well, the next morning, the defendant wakes up, late morning, perhaps early afternoon, somewhere in this time range, several hours. And she goes downstairs, and she doesn't see George anywhere. Torres eventually realizes, oh my God. does after taking him out, and I believe you will hear a description by the defendant saying, took his little legs out. At some point she makes that statement. And tries to resuscitate him. Here's a gurgling as she presses down on his chest, forcing whatever air was trapped in there out of the gurgling. The next thing she does is she doesn't call 911. She calls Brian Boone. Brian Boone is her ex-husband. They share a child in common. And this date, February 24th, 2020, is a Monday. A normal work day for most people. School day for their child that they share in common. But after they got divorced, the arrangement was after that weekend, they'll co-parent. And that weekend included Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So they got free schedule. And Monday through Tuesdays, their child would be her responsibility. Wednesdays and Thursdays, their child would be Client's responsibility.
Hi, Christine. Welcome.
20 was a Sunday. Now he's led into Monday.
Yeah, it was a tragic sound, Nancy.
Contact the defendant several times that morning. He just wanted to confirm she was going to get their child after school. And there had been a history of reliability on that issue so far. So you will see in the phone record, he calls her. Then she finally calls him back instead of calling 911. And being the nice co-parent that he is, he comes over. It's a short drive, 10 minutes. And as she's explaining to him what the heck is going on, he peeks in through the front door of her townhouse, which allows you a view all the way to the back sliding glass door. You're going to see that her kitchen is off to the right, doorway, all the way through. And on the back side of the kitchen in the front area, there's tables and stuff. There's also some blue legs sticking out in view. Brian Boone says, check please. You need to call 911. He doesn't set foot into that townhouse. He does wait outside though, being the good co-parent that he has. So now, after having first called their ex-husband, after having first waited for Brian Boone to come over, the defendant makes a 911 call.
I'm so sorry about the sound, y'all. That's with the court. It's not with me.
What you will not hear are tears. You will not hear sorrow. You will hear a certain level of concern. My boyfriend and I were playing last night. Put him in a suitcase, and we were playing hide and seek kind of thing. I fell asleep. Found him dead in the suitcase this morning. I don't know what happened. He had blood coming out of his mouth. Don't know if it was an aneurysm. Pulled him out of the suitcase, tried to give him CPR. He was in the suitcase and I fell asleep. He's not awake, he's purple, he's not breathing. There's some instructions about how to do CPR given to her, asking about whether an AED is available to shock his heart. It's too late. He's cold, he's stiff, he's purple. We were playing hide and seek. This is horrible. This is horrific what happened. Like, what happened? We were playing hide and seek last night and I fell asleep. So she mentions that there was blood coming out of his mouth. And his body, like all bodies, needs steps. What the doctor found was a speck. He passed from positional asphyxiation, meaning like you're not going to get full breath when you're comfortable, and environmental suffocation. You don't have to have a plastic bag over your head, maybe shut with a full roll of duct tape to seal feel about 100% heat before it gets back into space into environmental suffocate. It's close enough. You can't get the oxygen and CO2 coming in and out of your environment. But she also did notice some one force trauma, torso, space, mouth. She'll use words like confusion, will help her explain bruises. She'll use words like hematomas, will help her understand for you all that means bleeding under the skin and blood, what you expect to improve with blood or everything. But had all this additional trauma, and trauma unexpected as well.
Terrible.
Now, Sheriff's Office, Orange County Fire Rescue show up. And the defendant interacts with the first patrol officer. You will see and hear that body worn camera. It's more of the same of what we heard on the 911 call. How do you see? Good. I fell asleep. What happened? A few hours later, the detectives from the homicide unit of Orange County Sheriff's Office approach her and are ready to interview her after doing some initial things. This includes grabbing her cell phone off of the counter that was found at the CPS report, and giving it to one of their digital forensic examiners. We'll hear from them later as well. But it's time to give the first interview with the defendant. So they do the first interview with the defendant in one of their unmarked detective patrol cars there on the scene. And the basics of this remain the same, but there's a little more elaboration, as you would expect from trained detectives versus getting the 911 call taken. But the basics of what the defendant tells them is we had wine, we painted, we drew, we did puzzles. The particular wine we had was a Chardonnay from the Woodbridge winery. The bottles, plural, are in the trash. We started about 4 p.m. after Mr. Torres went to the store. Puzzles, art, listening to music, enjoying each other's company. We were literally just enjoying one another's company. The other bottle of wine that was left over from Boer wasn't even half full. So the description she is saying is one bottle of wine and plus a fraction of a bottle of wine left over from the night before. Ladies and gentlemen, not all bottles of wine are made the same. Many of us may envision what you would expect at a restaurant. Those are $7.50 normally. Bottles of wine that were recovered from the defendant's trash can were 1.5 liters, so the equivalent of 2 standard bottles of wine. A 1.5 liter bottle of wine is 50 ounces. Given that a standard serving of wine is 5 ounces, you can begin to do the math. And here's receipts. The day before, Saturday, February 22nd, 2020, there is a receipt from Publix for a bottle of Woodbridge wine for $9.74. And then Sunday at 12:17 p.m., there is another receipt for $9.74 for a Woodbridge Chardonnay bottle of wine. And then at about 5:30 in the afternoon on February 23rd, again, there is another receipt for the same bottle of wine for the same price. And those 2 bottles of wine were recovered. They're going to be produced to you in evidence, and you will see that they are, in fact, Magnum bottles of wine. So that's the context that we're dealing with when we hear things like, we only had 1 bottle of wine, and we finished what was left in the bottle of wine from before. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's 2 1.5 liters that apparently were consumed by a 103-pound man and the defendant, who is in the same weight class.
It was sloppy.
Plus,
It was
if you believe
messy.
that the defendant and the decedent would leave leftover wine from any given day,
Oh,
and
no.
additional wine that was remaining from the 1.5 liters from Saturday.
No.
Ladies
No
and gentlemen,
leftovers allowed.
That's a lot of wine.
Yeah, it is.
So in that context, we were just having wine, enjoying each other's company. At one point, we play hide and seek. She says she didn't zip it up all the way. There was enough room, in her words again, there was enough room for his little fingers to get out.
We
were
need
still
a
having a good
petition,
time
DB.
and whatever. And basically, Mr. Torres is stressing out about jobs, his ex-wife, about money. And so they're just doing puzzles and doing things to keep his mind off of it.
All the
Doing art,
innocent
playing with dogs,
accidents
dancing
of
with the dogs,
childhood.
playing hide and seek. We were always trying to outdo each other where we could find each other the best. When they started playing hide and seek, she went up to the shower and then got tired of hanging out in the shower and came down. And that's when she found him playing around in the suitcase. We both thought it was funny. I'm going to zip you up. 2 little fingers could stick out. And she went upstairs thinking, he'll get out.
Don't you think that after 3 liters of wine, probably most anything would seem funny?
We're going to have sex and go to sleep and call it a day. It was a good day. She insists that they had wine, but we're not drunk. You will be able to assess that for yourselves when you hear the recording she made. No ill will between us last night. Last argument, maybe last week. Don't really argue. We came home, drink, smoke, did art, listen to music, play with the dogs. We drink what we can afford. We used to be able to afford liquor, but now we can only afford wine. And that's how that day ends with the police. She goes and sleeps, stays at her ex-husband's house the night of February 24th. What they are doing, and by they I mean Orange County Sheriff's Office, that's when they discovered the 2 videos that I just described for you. And there's other things in the phone, which I will discuss with you in a little bit. But she's summoned in for another interview, and she sits down and gives another interview on February 25th, now Tuesday. She does describe past instances of violence. You're going to hear about that. She's going to say, Mr. Torres had hit her with a curtain rod about a month ago. Like we've been good.
She was also an aggressor.
She describes that he comes at her all the time. He comes at me. So it's either I flee or I try to go upstairs and go to sleep. That's usually what it is. I don't know if you talk to Brian, her husband, about any of that, but most of the time I flee and I go over there. There's a discussion about why she stays with him, and you'll hear that for yourself. She will say that she doesn't really want to drink. She just takes an occasional drink. She drinks to placate him. Mr.
Oh,
Torres.
yeah, sure.
She says that you're going to see phone videos of Mr. Torres smashing her TV in the past, like a month earlier.
Oh, that sounds fun.
You may see that too.
What do y'all think?
She doesn't get drunk. When she drinks, she likes being non-compos mentis. Her words, not mine.
Oh, that is so interesting. Do you guys remember when we were going through the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria for histrionic personality disorder? Remember how we talked about the lingo, the vocabulary that they choose to use? There you go. Right there, non-compos lingos, trying to make herself sound far more knowledgeable, educated, and professional than she actually is, and sort of prompting the ability to put herself up on a stage and say, you poor ignorant child, you don't know of which I speak? Let me explain to you what non-compos mentis is. That is stereotypical histrionic PD.
Wits about herself. And she gets to the hide and seek again and describes that they've played it 3 times before, but had never zipped one another shut in it before. And they were really just running out of places to hide because it's just a townhome. She does not remember, according to her, she does not remember taking any photos or videos of the night's events. At this point, they ask her, well, would you like to see it? And she says, I can't watch this. I flipped him over, and that's where it was.
Well, that's
guys,
because
this is killing me right now.
That's because you're
That's why I flipped it over between the 2 videos. I didn't do anything intentional.
Let me tell you why I'm laughing. Non-compos mentis. It is a Latin phrase. It refers to mental illness, and if you say that someone is non-compos mentis, it means they're not responsible for their own actions because they're not of sound mind. But Sarah, because she has histrionic personality disorder, she says, I like to be non-compos mentis, What she was really saying is, I like to be not of sound mind. But there you go. There's that diagnostic. They love to use the fancy vocabulary, lingo that is specific towards a certain profession, like the medical profession or the legal profession. And I mean, if you couldn't write a script any better, there it is.
Discussion over whether he had enough room to get any of his fingers out from the zipper. My intention was not to leave him there. We both got in there. Both of us were in there. When she went upstairs, my plan was not to, quote, he'll be up here any minute. My plan wasn't to leave him in the suitcase. Why is all this going on? It's the drinking. That's what it is. It's the drinking. I thought it was.
Now she keeps referring to her plan. My plan was blah, blah, blah. My plan was not blah, blah, blah. Okay, immediately that blows a self-defense condition completely out of the water. She is a terrible defendant.
I was like, I thought he was okay. Guys, that's how we were with each other. Nobody understands our relationship. This whole suitcase thing never happened before. Though she described it happening before. I'll never drink alcohol again. She insists that she has no injuries on her. And you don't have to take her word for it because they took photographs of her and there were no injuries on her. She insists over and over that there was no violence that day. It's like, okay, we're in a good place right now.
Yeah, well, someone died, Sarah.
Ask her about saying fuck you.
Clearly violent.
That's just being playful and having a good day. Everybody's having a good day.
Not George.
I didn't touch him, nor did he touch me. Her words.
George did not have a good day. George
what else is
found
found over. There's a conversation between Mr. Torres's brother, and again, nobody knows who's using these phones at the time text messages are sent in these records that you're going to see. But it's indicated that there's a communication between one of the decedent's brothers and the owner of the phone that was taken that belongs to Miss Boone. The text from the brother is, yo, my daughter told me what you did, Sarah. I don't want you around any of my daughters or nieces, nephews. And that's Christmas 2019, just under 2 months before this event.
Wonder
She replies,
what she did.
the person using her device at this time, ugh, your quote unquote dad hit me in the face. The next text is, hide and seek, I shall. January 13th, there's another heated discussion. She describes it on January 13th in a text to Mo, the brother again. It's a Torres thing. Boo. Sends a picture. Keep the fugly creep out too. It's still fugly. Lose. The brother responds, please do something with yourself, Sarah. God bless you. The defendant's response, and bless you and all of you too. I'll get, in all capitals, rid of him. Then it'll be, in all capitals, better. Ugh, Torres.
How old is this woman in her mind? Her psychosocial development, how old is she? You judging by those texts, about 13. Something happened to her when she was about 13, 14 years old.
Referring to Mr. Torres, getting rid of.
He's thinking, God help me, Nancy.
That's
oh, he's mad, Kathy. Yeah, he's thinking, what in God's name was I thinking taking this case?
we, the state of Florida, remember the maturity in our journey. All that come up with one is danger, keep out, stay away, by court order. That court says, then it's just the door. Halloween in like 13 days. Part of Vampire Lore is vampire. Based on YouTube. Participate in this trial. We're going to be invited in to the defendant's past relationship with the previous couple of years.
And there, I like that he said that they're gonna take us into her first relationships and the years before this relationship. That's going to tell us and teach us an awful lot about Sarah the person. I think that that is very interesting that she chose a hot pink shirt for opening statements for the first introduction to the jury. Very interesting, isn't it? I'm telling you, she wants more to be significant, to be noticeable, to be important than she wants her freedom. She is in her element right now. She is absolutely loving this. She feels like she's in the middle of the Sarah show.
And as we come inside this room, after beckoning, weird thing I think pointed out that she would like us to focus on. And you're going to hear the first night the defendant met the decedent, Mr. Torres, he smashes her phone, punches her. The first time in her life she ever been punched.
I doubt that.
He made her curl up in a fetal position on her own porch for 4 hours. She was only able to escape this situation and fell asleep. I expect you're going to hear.
That was their first date?
An alcoholic. I expect you may hear his high score on his blood alcohol level was a 3.42 once. You got treated for hospital. This is a man who has serious alcohol problems, and I expect you're going to hear about that. Despite that first date, and this is going to tie into some other things I expect could possibly happen. Despite that first date, despite at that point in time of this first date not having a relationship, emotional ties, the things that come along with a relationship that make it harder to break off a relationship. It's one thing to have a bad first date, it's another thing to end a 25-year marriage. Despite that first date, there's a second and a third.
That's crazy.
And it just typically ends up, she's going to tell you, I suspect, or you're going to hear her say it one way or another. It's one thing or the other. Like I asked a dude for a cigarette. Before it slips out, and I'm going to pay the price. Just things like that. You're going to hear, potentially see, yes, there were injuries that the defendant is going to attribute to the victim causing her. Black eyes, cuts in the face, perhaps from the curtain rod, incident of mentioned police interview. Bloody ear, a stab wound in the leg, which is perhaps described as sword fighting playing around. But nonetheless,
sword fighting?
here to see a lot about their past history. And at the end, if this occurs, if this comes in, the state is going to have the opportunity to take the lead of the court in this room labeled defendant in the victim's past history.
That's what I want to hear.
Now, if this all comes to fruit, blooms on the tree during the trial, we'll discuss it again where more appropriate. But I'm asking you to not rush to judgment. You should hear all of the evidence in the case. Then apply whether or not these past instances have any with what happened on this point. Now, like a home inspector, there are experts to come in and kind of help walk everybody through this room labeled the defendant and the victim's past relationship. I suspect there's a chance we may hear from some experts, psychologists and psychiatrists, about battered spouse syndrome. The state is not challenging in any way that battered spouse syndrome exists. I'll recognize the experts tell you all about it. Not disputing that at all. So there's some things that we would hope that you pay attention to during all the testimony, if there is any.
This does not meet the elements of battered spouse syndrome.
Is that it's not actually a recognized diagnosis in the Bible that they use in mental health called PTSD.
Please don't call it the Bible. Please don't do that.
What it is and what they describe it as is kind of a component of post-traumatic stress.
Correct.
But because it's not actually in the book, it's like a recipe book. It's like our statute book for lawyers. We go into this book and say, say you have a disorder diagnosis, it'll say, well, all these three elements, like elements of crime, some of these elements have to be prevalent for a certain amount of time, so on and so forth. You have it's a cookbook. If you rest it for that. But because there's no, it's not in the cookbook, you may get some disagreement about what it means to be an expert. It's kind of like grandma's recipe and down from generation to generation without right. But what I expect you'll hear is, it's important for people who don't have experience in certain abusive relationships that are violent to understand control that can be exerted over a partner by the other one, isolation, psychological violence, emotional violence, physical violence, sexual violence, which I suspect will be described for you as well, perpetrated on her by the deceased. You will hear about all this. And what it ties into at the end of the day, after we talk about this during jury selection, if there is a self-defense instruction rescue, this is to help you understand what an objective and reasonable person in the circumstances would do. Because years ago, we've gotten better as a society. But years ago, when this was first being researched, the question would be, well, why don't you leave? Back spouse syndrome, the testimony from experts help explain those things to people. Well, it's not that easy. You got to look at what's going on in the relationship, isolation, control, so on and so forth. That explains why we're leaving. Now, returning to the facts of our case, what you're going to decide the facts are is ordinary, objective, reasonable person in those circumstances taking action to take self-defense instruction. That's what it's used for. It's not used for explaining subjective beliefs at one moment. But you will also hear about these things just like any other doctor or any expert, a home inspector. If a home inspector's report was based solely on the person who's trying to sell that house, what they say about the house, great shape. I rewired the entire thing. Brand new JDC pipes. This sucker's good to go. I grip this and no. You're not going to take that home inspector's report unless they lift the hood, take the tires, and all the things in the box on your car accident. If you want an expert to give reliable information, the expert's opinion is only what is the information that you're choosing. They will say, yeah, you gotta take into account the credibility of the person who's giving the story, even its location, the client that is saying all these things have to be confirmed. You gotta find proper information. You gotta check reliability, particularly circumstances that we expect. Another thing that they're going to tell you is just because there's a bunch of violent nonsense going on between two intimate partners doesn't mean that there's not sitting in blocks. Some people can go home and fight like cats and dogs. That's just their day. They get over it. They live their life fighting everything. Their cycle spins like that. So just because you hear about those things with the experts doesn't mean that it necessarily applies. If this testimony comes in, I expect that Dr. Harper said it applies. But we'll talk to her about what she relied upon to make that conclusion. We'll talk about some other things to take that journey together. But at the end of the day, after you hear all of the evidence in this case, particularly straight from the horse's mouth, the video, you don't have to rely on the credibility of anything other than your own eyes, your own ears. Statements that you're going to return guilty for second degree murder. The evidence is going to show that the defendant killed Ms. Torres because she decided to deserve it. Not because the evidence will show an objective, reasonable person in her circumstances.
Thank you, Mr. J. Any opening remarks by the defense?
Oh,
Judge, can we invoke the rule? It has-
the rule,
I've already advised the witnesses.
Okay, the rule sequestration will be invoked. Thank you.
non compos mentos. The rule, he invoked
You may
the
proceed, sir.
rule.
Appreciate y'all being here. I'll introduce the full. My name is James Owens, and I represent Sarah Bill.
Mr. Owens, could you please go to the dais and use the microphone? Pretty please with sugar on top.
This is going to be a 7-day call. Obviously, today, we're not sure, but trying to make arrangements to witnesses upon expert witnesses. We'll know who the proper only focuses on his face.
Oh my God, I cannot hear that. What the hell?
We find Sarah Boone not guilty, because she was justified. The force that she used to defend herself. That force was reasonable under the circumstances that existed between Sarah Boone and George Torres. Sarah Boone and George Torres were down and out, as you can be. Their lives centered around alcohol. Both of them suffered from, used to be called alcoholism, now it's called alcohol abuse syndrome. And so day to day, they struggled with the use of alcohol. You can imagine it. It affected their jobs. It affected keeping employment. It affected even getting a job. As codependent as you can be towards each other. And you're going to learn with all that was domestic violence. And that George Torres physically abused Sarah Boone.
And Sarah Boone physically abused George
She
Torres,
suffered
I promise.
From the effects, the psychological effects that one suffers from repeat violence from an intimate partner. They were together over 3 years, and there were several prior incidences of violence. We've got the photographs. There were incidences where police were called. We took photographs. So you're going to be able to see the evidence. And we believe the court will instruct you at the end when you're considering self-defense, which we call justifiable use of non-deadly force or justifiable use of deadly force, that you can consider the prior acts.
No, nothing
history of
justified
violence,
about
prior
this,
difficulties
buddy.
that the parties had.
No, no, no.
Considering her set of circumstances that she was faced with in making the decision to use reasonable force under the circumstances.
I have a
And the most
question.
important thing I can tell you here today,
I'm curious, you guys. Does the word reasonable have any kind of relationship with Sarah Boone and what happened to George Torres? Is there anything reasonable? I don't think so. I think the whole night was absolutely out of control. 3 liters of wine for 2 people that weigh 100 pounds. They're both alcoholics, so there's no food. They have no nutrition. Both of them are having muscle wasting. They started drinking at 4 o'clock. How? No, reasonable. And this event, Mr. Owens, no connection, not even a parallel.
is keep an open mind. There's 2 sides to every story. You're going to hear the state's side in attempting to paint her a certain way, as they've done here today in opening statements. And then you're going to hear another side. And you're going to have to weigh that. All the evidence, the credibility of the witnesses, the photographs, the videotapes, and come to a conclusion. Now let's talk about this day, February 23rd of 2020, the date of this event. This case has been pending for some time.
5 years.
October of 2024. I think the evidence is going to show that they had purchased some wine the day before, but they hadn't finished all of that.
And that's not true because they're alcoholics.
Many times that's how they start their day. At some point, you're going to see a video from Publix, from where they live. I believe it's Winter Park. But Publix was not too far from their apartment complex. And they took their car, they drove over there. So you're going to see a videotape from Publix of them both going in the store about noon, and they come out with one of those larger bottles of the wine. And then, of course, There's a receipt, and the bottles are in the garbage can. Of course, there obviously is an attraction between the two. And as everybody gets along, and then we can have episodes of disagreement. And how are those resolved? Really, that's what this is about. How are disagreements resolved? But George was very jealous of Sarah. You're going to hear the testimony about that. And that he
Sure.
cannot.
George was very jealous of Sarah. What was he jealous of? Her non-compass mentis? her brilliant intellect? I can't even imagine what that means, Mr. Owens.
In certain situations, it can be very charming. But when his level of intoxication gets to a certain level, is when he gets sad, moody, and a lot of times eventually it involved forcible sex with Sarah Boone.
Oh my
Or
God.
actual physical violence against her.
Uh-huh. What about her violence toward him?
They bought the line. It's a simple life. They don't have much money, but they both like art. They did that for a while. They both like puzzles. They did that for a while. Well, about 5 or so, the wine bottle was gone. And George had said, I want to go get some cigarettes. So there's a convenience store right close by their apartment complex. And Sarah thought he was just going to walk over there and get cigarettes and come back. But no, what he did was he got her keys, got her debit card. He went over to the Publix and he got another bottle. I think that was about 5:30, something like that. And again, there'll be the Publix video showing him going in and going out, and there'll be a receipt for the purchase of that bottle, and then there'll be that bottle. Will be in the garbage can along with the other bottle. Well, when he comes in with the second bottle, Sarah knows this is not good. She knows this means he's going to get to another level of intoxication.
Yes.
So Sarah's concerned. Attempts to placate him, keep him busy, keep him in a good mood. They drink that bottle. Well, she drinks as well. And at some point, they're intoxicated at a high level.
Non-compass mentis.
As some people do when they're drunk, they get silly. And they decide to play a game of hide and seek. She goes upstairs, their bedroom's upstairs, to the shower and waits for a period of time. And he doesn't come.
To find her.
At some point, she gets cold, she gets tired. She wants to go see. Well, maybe we got it mixed up. Where is he? So she goes downstairs, and they had gotten a suitcase down a week or so ago. It's an old suitcase that they were going to donate to Helping Hands or Goodwill or somebody, and they were putting some items in the.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
It's a broken down suitcase. It's a large suitcase.
I'm sure that's what they were doing, Mr. Owens. Okay. These two don't have $1 between them. They're both raging alcoholics, and they're sitting around in their free time thinking about donating their junk to Helping Hands. If you believe that's true, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that just sounds just nonsensical, put a 2.
They both weigh about 100 pounds, and they don't eat good. Malnourished to a large degree. But the pull handle is broken off. And they've attached a little paper clip. It's got the rubber around it, and that's how they pull back and forth. Well, she comes down the steps. She sees him getting in and settling in the suitcase. So she walks over there, and they see each other, and they smile and laugh, and she zips him up. And she zips him up, and they laugh for a while.
He doesn't sound like he's laughing.
And they carry on. She sits on the couch, and at some point he says, "I can't breathe." Now his face is facing the zipper, and she's got 2 or 3 inches that she's opened it.
Oh my
She doesn't
God.
know. They're intoxicated. She doesn't know whether he's just saying that to try to get her to get him out or what. But he's a captive audience. Physically, they're the same size, but he's much stronger than her. If they got in a fist fight, he would win 100 times out of 100. But she's got him now. He claims he can't get up. He has to sit and listen. It's a unique form of physical restraint. And so she lets him have it.
It is physical
Says things
restraint.
she shouldn't say. You'll see the video. It's about 2 minutes long. She videotapes it. She sits on the couch and turns her phone on and videotapes it for about 2 minutes.
The phrase is non compos mentis, Kathy.
There's another video that's approximately 11 minutes later. The first video, the suitcase is flipped upside down. The zippers on the bottom. 11 minutes later, Sarah has flipped it right side up. Again, open for him to get out. And it's only 22 seconds.
And look, I do think I'm kind of chuckling because I think that Sarah Boone is a ridiculous human being. Okay, I think she has just terrorized and brutalized this man, took his life in what is a terrifying set of circumstances, and she can only see herself as this poor victim, right? And she's really baffled why everybody's not worried about her and concerned about her. And I find her to be highly offensive to humanity. But I think that this idea that he is locked up in this suitcase and there's a video and then it turns off, and then 2 minutes later there's another video, but this time the suitcase has been turned upside down. And then when they actually do the autopsy, she beat him. He was not only was he confined in the suitcase, he was in bondage. She proceeded to take a bat and beat the suitcase with the bat. So he sustained quite a number of injuries. Yes, I chuckle and I laugh at Sarah, but only because she's just like an abomination toward human beings. I mean, what happened to George Torres is absolutely unforgivable, in my opinion. And when you add in her behavior of, oh, look at me, I'm such a victim, feel sorry for me, come rescue me, then it should absolutely be life without parole, in my opinion.
And you hear George say Sarah. And that's it.
Yeah.
Now, the key to the case is that 11 minutes. And what happened during that 11 minutes. Okay? That is the key to this case. Sarah Boone will take the stand. She will explain what happened.
She
will explain why it happened.
The woman could not speak the English language, Mr. Owens. She was so heavily intoxicated. Okay, who in this chat believes that Sarah is going to be capable of explaining anything to us about what happened? Because she didn't encode any memory of that situation. She essentially wasn't there. I guarantee you she doesn't remember a thing. Nothing. So she can't explain to us why she did it. She can't explain to us what happened. She doesn't know.
The evidence will show that she was justified in the action she took to prevent an attack on George Torres, which the law acknowledges that every one of us has a right to invoke, the right of self-defense.
Exactly, DB. absolutely believe that. Yes.
You can hear from the medical examiner. She is going to tell you about some bruising on George Torres.
Exactly, soul
He was
child.
in the suitcase a while, deceased, we believe. And that changes things a little bit, as the medical examiner will explain, but there's some bruising. Sarah's going to explain that to you.
She can't explain it.
What
Oh
were the
my God.
circumstances surrounding that?
Mr. Owens, your client was blackout drunk. She couldn't even speak the English language. So she can't explain anything to us. But what we all know is she's an abomination. That to do that to another human being is absolutely just unforgivable. Do you know why I can say that with such conviction? Here's how come I have this level of conviction. I want you right now to look at your pet, like your dog or your cat. Now I want you to imagine putting your little dog or cat in a suitcase, zip it up, and then take a bat and beat the suitcase. You feeling pretty good about that? You feeling okay? You feel like that's okay? Oh, it's just a fun little game? No, it's the act of a monster. And we're just talking about a dog or a cat, not a human being. No, what she did, I don't care if she was blackout drunk or not, what she did, this is definitely reaches the level of unforgivable, in my opinion.
Involving with that. Her son comes and stays with him from time to time. He has his own room. He has several of his things there. There's a bat downstairs. The same bat that George Torres used, and there's a video where George is threatening Sarah. And he's swinging the bat at the TV about as hard as he can. And he does it about 6 or 7 times. You'll see it. Sarah's recording it. And it's during an argument. And he's trying to intimidate.
She is taking the stand. She is, Kathy. Are you kidding? This is a Sarah show.
Sarah loves you. You know, you're going to hear why women don't leave. Why women don't leave. And you're going to hear about Sarah Boone and her struggles, her mental health struggles.
So Alpha to Zeta asked a question. Do you think she has sociopathic features, or is she high in sociopathy? Here's the problem with, okay, first of all, we will in fact, in this case, we will in fact get a licensed psychologist that will take the stand, who completed an evaluation, did assessment and testing. We're probably going to get an MMPI report, MCMI. Once that psychologist gets on the stand, we are going to learn a lot of interesting things about Sarah. Okay. Now, in terms of the antisocial personality disorder, or what you're talking about, feature high in sociopathy, it is common that active alcoholism and or drug addiction, that those people do score high in sociopathy. Now, for many of them, if they go through detox rehab and they are able to live a clean and sober life, then those levels of sociopathy normalize. So sometimes the what you're testing that is picking up or being described as signs and symptoms of sociopathy, sometimes that is the direct result of the substance or drug that you are using. sometimes the sociopathy is the byproduct of the addiction or alcoholism, right? But if you have someone that does not have an addiction, they're not an alcoholic and dependent on some substance, and they're still demonstrating those high levels of sociopathy, those are the people you say, okay, that's either a primary or secondary psychopath, and they may or may not be dangerous. But I think more important is that Sarah is one of the first. I think. Let me think in my head a minute. I think that Sarah is one of the first defendants that we've seen that is very, very clearly histrionic personality disorder. Although she does have some narcissistic features, to me, it's really interesting to see that pure clinical picture of histrionic PD. It's not, we don't see it very often. So it's interesting that we see it, and it's associated with a manslaughter or second degree murder trial. It's a pretty unique event. But boy, when I say she's got it too, we're talking about she is heavy in the histrionic PD, in my opinion.
Sarah had done what the prosecutor mentioned. She wanted him to die. Farthest from the truth. She loved the man. She hated the abuse. She couldn't leave him. She tried. She tried kicking him out 6 or 7 times. He kept coming back. She changed the locks. He kept coming back. She didn't have the family. She didn't have the support. She was weak, vulnerable.
Y'all are so fun. Copious sociopathus mentis.
You got to take that all into account to try to understand what happened. And the circumstances.
I want a plaque. I want a bronze and wooden plaque that says Copious Sociopathus Mentis to hang on my door. I love that.
Circumstances surrounding this tumultuous relationship.
Oh yeah, Alpha. Absolutely.
Now you're going to find that Sarah's not perfect.
That's so funny.
And she goes, as many of us do when we drink too much, you sleep in. She slept in. 11, 12, 1, somewhere around there.
She definitely slept in.
Looking for George. She thought he was on the computer looking for a job. She looked outside, maybe he's out smoking a cigarette, and she sees the suitcase.
Oh my God, George, he's in the suitcase. Me and Mr. Owens are a team.
She unzips it. She gets him out. He's purple.
Horrible.
She
Horrible.
tries her best to do some CPR. She freaks out. The only family she's got is her ex-husband. Really. She relies on him. As the prosecutor said, a lot of times she'll flee to her ex-husband's house, where her son is at. Lucas. The only thing she knows to do. She was kind of a sheltered daughter when she was younger. She's smart, but she's not worldly. She calls Brian. What do I do? He said, "I'm coming up. Please come up." He's about 5 minutes away. And she calls him again within a couple of minutes. Yeah, I'm on the way. He gets there. He walks in the foyer and sees his legs. And she called 911. She calls 911 within a minute, 2. Detective Rodriguez arrives. They got the body cam now, so it's recorded. So you're going to hear Sarah talking. But Sarah's freaking out. Sarah's thinking, and I'm somehow responsible.
Yeah, she was responsible. Not somehow.
Eventually, she gives a statement to law enforcement. She gives one to Detective or Deputy Rodriguez. Of course, she's not the homicide. She just responded. She's supposed to respond. They know what to do. They try to assess the situation. They start putting the tape out. and then they call for the homicide investigator to come, which takes a little time. So she gets a statement from Sarah. Eventually, the homicide detectives get a statement from Sarah and one of the unmarked squad cars, and it's recorded. They hear that. And then the next day, they take Sarah's phone. Sarah gives them the phone, signs the consent to take the phone, take it to, they have a phone extraction people at the sheriff's department where they can take out all the data, all your phone calls, text messages, photographs, videos, all that. And they find these two videos. Sarah's not aware, she doesn't remember making the video. You can imagine.
Yeah, I believe that.
Gives them the phone. Well, she makes no attempts to do anything other than here's the phone. So they tell her you're going to get your phone back tomorrow. We'll bring it back to you tomorrow. Well, they end up having a conversation with the female detective, homicide detective, Hobson. Chelsea Hobson. And they end up, Debbie Hobson was pregnant, or detective Hobson was pregnant. They end up, hey, we're not going to bring your phone. I'm not feeling good. Pregnant. Can you come to the sheriff's department? Which Sarah Ben was telling you that was what I was going. That's what they told me. I was going to the sheriff's department for. Well, instead, it was an interrogation. And they were going to arrest her. They made their mind up on it. And they were going to confront her and try to get her to confess based on the two videos. And so there's approximately a 2-hour interrogation.
That's okay.
25th in the afternoon when she got there to get her phone. They said, well, we got to come up here. We need to talk. And they got her in the room. It's a small room, but it's being videotaped and audio taped. And it goes on for about 2 hours of them trying to get a confession.
And that's fine.
But it doesn't happen.
She has the right to remain silent.
She's scared. She can tell they're trying to pin her on this, that this was some kind of intentional act, and it was not.
Seemed like it was.
She lied.
She kept talking about her
She's
plan.
not a lawyer. She doesn't know about self-defense. She doesn't understand. She has a lawful right to defend herself. She doesn't understand that she's justified in using the force that she used.
Look, the guy didn't do anything
I
to
wasn't
her.
there to advise her. No lawyer was there. So she lied. And you're going to hear that. So you're going to have to balance that versus her taking a stand and testifying before you.
God help us,
We
y'all.
simply ask that you look for the evidence of cooperation of her testimony. It's going to be later, probably next week. The judges will tell you in reading instruction on evaluating a witness's credibility. And they'll talk about cooperation and evidence, other evidence that's consistent with the testimony that Sarah Boone gave. So you're going to have to weigh that.
Well, are we going to talk about copia sociopathus mentis or non-compass mentis?
Self-defense, we talked about it in jury selection, usually a gun, some deadly weapon. The suitcase in this case was a physical restraint or a blocking of an attack. But it was unconventional.
Yeah, he definitely said justified. I'm not sure where he gets that. And here's the reason I say it, okay? Justified is a very big word, especially when there's a dead body in the room. You know what I mean? But here's the problem. Sarah has never changed her story that the whole day was wonderful. The whole day was wonderful. It was great. They were filled with mirth and delight. They were skipping about the apartment, playing childhood games. They were engaged in innocent childhood activities like coloring and painting and puzzles. It was literally the most innocent environment on the planet, short of a kindergarten classroom. That's her story, and she's sticking to it. So the whole battered spouse syndrome, there is no fear for injury. There's no fear for life. And a lot of people, okay, so let's say you get beat up, right? You're with your boyfriend or whatever, you get beat up. So you lay very still and quiet until they fall asleep. until they go to sleep. And then when your abuser falls asleep, then you think, my God, he's going to kill me. And so you take that one opportunity to grab the gun and do him in. Because inside of you, you're thinking, okay, I could run out the front door. I've got to escape and get away from him. But if he catches me, I know what's going to happen. And if I try to get in that bed and pretend like everything's okay, I know what's going to happen. And if I try to just pack my bags and walk out like a normal person, I know what's going to happen. And so in the case of battered spouse syndrome, in their own minds, because of the repeated punitive, physically assaultive experiences, they're reliving every time they've ever been beaten. They're trying to problem solve and say, okay, how am I going to save myself? How am I going to get out of here? And they can't come up with a way that doesn't end up with them getting beat up again. And in fear, they grab the gun and kill them. And in that moment, in that very second, that very moment where they end the abuser's life, it is this idea, this feeling that saving myself from a beating is the only thing that matters. And I would rather spend the rest of my life in prison than to have to go through another beating. You see what I mean? And so that is the whole battered spouse syndrome. There's 3 elements that have to be satisfied for that defense. And she's not even meeting the first. It was a perfectly happy day. According to Sarah, there had been no violence, there had been no control, there had been no threats of violence. In fact, they both weighed 100 pounds. They were both pretty much each other's abuser. This was convenient. To get poor old George out of the way was an act of convenience, not an act of survival. You know what I mean? And remember, Sarah does not like to be non-compos mentis, but she is plenty copious psychopathic mentis.
Self-defense nonetheless.
Absolutely,
Like I said,
Alpha.
the struggles that occurred, many of them involved police. So you're going to actually hear from some of the police officers. Maybe some body cam footage. You're going to see some photographs that they took.
I love body cam.
And some of the videos you may see of her in a very happy, joyful type of thing. Well, number 1, she's intoxicated. Number 2, she's safe. Police are there. So her attitude is not one of distress.
Did you just say her frame of mind, she was safe? You just blew up your own defense, Mr. Owens. Man, that is incredible. Okay. Soul Child asked a question. What was Soul Child's question? Oh, what is she hoping for as a verdict? Well, that's the perplexing thing, Soul Child, because last week on Monday, this trial was supposed to begin. And that was also the day that Hurricane Milton made landfall. And so where the prosecutor and the judge had previously said, not no, but hell no, you're not getting a plea deal, they unexpectedly came into court, Soul Child, and they offered her a plea deal. And part of that was because there was a hurricane that was going to be catastrophic. The other part of that was that the judge's 2 children were sick with COVID-like illnesses. So all the way around for the court, things would have been easier to get this difficult, complicated case put to bed, out of the way, so they could take care of sick children and evacuate the hurricane and try to just live a normal life. Correct? So listen to this, soul child. This judge, this prosecutor walked in and offered to Sarah manslaughter. Manslaughter, 15 years. And what that technically meant was this with Florida law, she had to serve 85% of the sentence, so 85% of the 15, and then subtract for the amount of time that she's already been in jail. She would have done 8 years, soul child, 8 years. You know what she's looking at today? She's looking at life, a minimum of 22 years that must be 85% served. Now, there is recording of this man pleading for his life and her laughing and going, "That's my name, don't wear it out." Recording, video and audio recording. The very, very best that she can hope for is that this jury comes back and says, well, I don't think it was actually the act of a depraved heart. I think it was more, they were just drunk and it was a terrible accident. So manslaughter holds. So why in the hell, if you can already get manslaughter, why the hell didn't you just take the deal? She's going down. I am talking about it's either going to be 22 years, 25 years, or this judge, because he hates her, may just say life in prison and be done with, just wash his hands of it. But there is no way that they're going to get an acquittal. No, that is simply not going to happen. So then it's a very interesting consideration. What would cause Sarah to turn down such a great plea? That deal was the deal of the century, truly the deal of the century. What in the world would cause her to do that? Because it's the Sarah Boone Show. That's the impact and the effect, the power of histrionic personality disorder that says, yay, I'm going to be on TV. I have fans. People are going to be reading about me. And she could not fight the allure of significance. It's actually a really tragic, sad tale. Totally agree, soul child.
Pack courtroom. The training's here, but you're the most important people. Because you've got to decide this case honestly, fairly, and according to the law. And we talked about the two biggest principles from the Constitution that apply. In this case, and in every case in which a citizen like Sarah Boone is brought into a courtroom accused of a crime. The first is, you as a juror must presume or believe that Sarah is innocent. And that belief stays with you throughout the entire trial. Because of that, she doesn't have to prove anything. That's why the state went first in jury selection. That's why the state went first today. That's why the state will go first putting on their case. They have the burden of proof, and it's the highest burden we recognize in any type of litigation in this country. Proof beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt.
I'm sorry, Mr. Owens, but there is recorded audio and video of poor George begging for his life. And your client giggling and laughing and saying, "That's my name, don't wear it out." It is going to be a shit show, Mr. Owens.
You are going to have doubts about this case. But the most important thing is not to rush the judgment, to keep an open mind and understand there's two sides to this case. There's their side and there's our side. So you can't forming fixed opinions early on. That's hard to do, as Mr. Henderson said in opening jury selection. That's extremely hard to do. Now you're going to hear some testimony. Just been mentioned in experts. Battered women's experiences affect her perception of imminent danger. Battered women's experiences affect her perception of imminent danger. Victims of repeat violence may fear death in a situation others would not.
Sir, did you see those two words that said imminent death? That's not what Sarah was experiencing.
After hearing both sides of this case, we're confident you're going to have a reasonable doubt. And we're going to ask you to follow the law and do justice in this case. And find Sarah Boone not guilty, because it's the right thing to do.
Oh, question. What do you guys think? Okay, let's do this. We had the defense, we had the prosecution opening statements, and then Mr. Owens just finished the defense opening statements. Which one of the two do you think had a better opening statements, better presentation, more interesting to listen to? If you think the prosecution won opening statements, put a 1. If you think that Mr. Owens, the defense, had a better, stronger statement, put a 2. What do y'all think? There she is. It's the Sarah Boone Show. All right, what do we think? Okay, so I got to tell y'all, I kind of think that Owens was a bit stronger. I think he is a better storyteller than the prosecutor. But I would agree, I don't think either one of them was like, hitting it out of the park, right? Neither one. Like Georgia Kappelman from the Charlie Adelson, or the death of Dan Markell. They've had several trials. Georgia Kappelman is a very good storyteller. So she's really interesting to listen to, even if you don't agree with her, she's really, really interesting to listen to. I didn't think the prosecutor was interesting. I felt like he was sort of sleepy. It's kind of tired. Owens at least has some drama. He's fairly well animated, but neither one was good, right? I would not be able to keep my personal opinion out of it. Hey, Soul Child, this was a terrible. You got to be a monster to do what this woman did to George Torres. That was a monstrous act. Just incredible, really. She's so pleased. Look at her sitting there feeling all important. She said, "This is my show. This is my circus. These are my monkeys." Look at her. She being all sassy. Look at you, Sarah. You got your 3 minutes, girl. Enjoy it, because it is soon to be over.
You just calling me.
This, get ready. You need some tissues. I believe that this is George Torres' brother. So this could be really tough. This could be sad.
Check on me. Basically.
Now, in the background of that conversation on the evening of February 23rd, 2020. What did you hear?
Sarah's in the background yelling.
You recognized her voice?
Yes.
What was she yelling about?
Something about choking or how he choked her. I really don't. That pretty much that was it.
About how long was this conversation that you had?
10 minutes, I think it was.
How did the conversation end?
Because she was yelling in the background, so that was it.
They look
sound
alike,
upset?
don't they?
She sounded upset.
Did you talk to your brother after that conversation?
No, that was the last conversation I had.
Oh my God, that's so sad. Oh my
Have
God.
you ever spoken to Sarah since that conversation?
No.
I have no further questions.
Any cross-examination?
Wow. Handle with care.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Be respectful.
In the beginning, when you started, it was hard for me to hear, but I know you were talking about other siblings, other family members that you had here. Could you repeat that for me, please?
Here in Orlando, I have one sister and 3 brothers.
Sister and 3 brothers?
Yes, sir.
Now, did your brother George Torres, did he ever stay with you at any time?
No.
Did he ever live with you or any of, I mean, not you, but any of your other siblings?
No.
All right, sir, let's go back to this phone call that you were talking about that was on February 23rd of 2020. And that phone call was approximately 7:30. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And who called to?
He called me.
And then y'all were talking, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when he called you, did you notice anything about his speech or his voice?
No, he was fine.
Sounded normal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so he wasn't slurring his words or anything like that?
No.
By the way he talked or what he talked to you about, could you tell at that time if he had been consuming alcohol?
No. Because I knew when he would drink.
Okay, so in your opinion at that time, based on what you heard and what he was talking about, you do not believe he had been drinking alcohol?
No.
Now, you said you heard Sarah,
Yes, sir.
is that correct? How did you know it was Sarah?
I can tell her voice.
You recognized her voice, so you could hear her, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and you've heard Sarah speak before that time, is that correct?
Yes.
And you've heard her speak on the phone before that time, is that correct? And you said that Sarah was yelling, is that correct, sir? And she was yelling about, he's choking me, or tell him about choking me,
Yes.
okay? During that conversation, and you heard her say that, did you ask your brother, what is she talking about?
No, I did not.
Did that statement at that time, did that statement surprise you?
Not really.
You've heard it before?
No.
Based on Sarah's voice that you've heard, was it any indication to you that she had been drinking?
No.
No? Sir, at some point your brother said he had to go, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did he hang up on the conversation? And did he say bye and you say bye?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I don't have. If I can.
You may, sir.
Sir, other than siblings, your mother and father, do they live in this area?
Yes.
Were there times that George would stay with them?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
Any redirect examination?
No, Your Honor.
This witness be released.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense?
Actually, we'll keep them subject to recall, Your Honor.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
All right, sir. You're released subject to recall by either party. Thank you.
State would call Devin Jamro.
Military.
Sir, good morning. You can take a seat and please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Devin Jamro. That's DEVINJAMRO.
Thank you. You may inquire, sir.
Sir, who do you work for?
I work for Public Supermarkets.
And what is your position with public supermarkets?
I am the assistant store manager.
And at what location?
Currently the Castleberry location.
Were you at the location on Goldenrod and University Boulevard back in February of 2020?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness which has been previously marked for identification as States D and been shown to defense?
D's and Delta?
D is in Delta.
Yes, you may.
Exactly,
Sir,
Alpha.
we're showing you it's been marked for identification as States D. Could you use these scissors and open this and look at the contents of this package to yourself?
Sure.
Yeah, for Sarah, it will definitely be her stage for Sarah's opus.
Sir, do you recognize those items?
I do, yes.
And tell us, what are these items?
These are Publix receipts.
Are these receipts evidence of transactions at Publix? Are they made at or near the time of each transaction?
They are absolutely made at the time of the transaction.
And is it in the normal course of business that Publix keeps these receipts?
Yes,
And these fairly inaccurately appear to be the receipts from your Publix store?
yep.
Your Honor, this time I'd like to move what's previously been marked for identification as States D into evidence.
Any objections?
No objection.
What was pre-marked as States D will be received into evidence without objection to States 1.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness who's been previously marked for identification as States J and shown to defense?
You may.
So I'm showing you it's been marked for identification as States J. Can you take a look at that disc?
Yes,
Do you see your initials on that disc?
I do.
Did you have an opportunity to look at that disc prior to coming to court this morning?
I did, yes.
And tell us, what is that disc?
This is CCTV footage burned from the camera system at the location.
And at Publix, is it the regular practice of Publix to utilize surveillance cameras?
Yes,
And in the normal course of business, are the videos from those surveillance cameras kept?
Yes.
And are these the cameras taken from February 23rd, 2020? And I believe there's 2 video clips included, one at 12:17 p.m. and another at approximately 5:39 p.m.
Yes.
And they fairly inaccurately represent the surveillance video that was submitted from Publix to law enforcement in this case.
They do. Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move what's previously been marked for identification, the state's J, into evidence.
Any objections?
No objection.
What was pre-marked as states J will be received into evidence without objection as states 2.
And I have no further questions for this witness.
Any cross-examination? Can this witness be released?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You're released.
Thank you.
Have a great day. State, you may call your next witness.
State will call Joan Williams.
Ma'am, good morning. Could you state and spell your name for the record for us?
Okay, Joan, Joan Williams, Williams.
Thank you, ma'am. Counselor, you may inquire.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Can you tell us what it is that you do for a living?
I'm a 911 call taker at the Orange County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you held that position?
24 years.
And tell us, what are your duties as a 911 call taker?
I answer phones for an emergency, non-emergency, medical transfer to the medical side of the business.
And is it the regular practice of Orange County to record 911 calls?
All lines are recorded.
And is it the regular practice of Orange County to keep records of each of those 911 calls?
Yes.
And those records are made at or near the time of each call, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, which has been previously marked for identification as states L and been shown to defense?
May.
Ma'am, I'm showing you what's been previously marked for identification as states L. Do you recognize this disc?
Yes. My initials.
Did you have an opportunity to review this disc prior to coming to court this morning?
Yes.
And those are your initials on the disc?
Yes.
And does this disc, does it fairly and accurately represent the 911 call that you took in this case on February 24th, 2020 at 12:59 hours?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move what's previously been marked for identification as states L into evidence.
Any objections?
No objection.
It was pre-marked as states L will be received with no objection as states 3.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Any cross-examination?
No, sir.
Can this witness be released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, we're moving right along, aren't we?
Can the parties approach momentarily?
All right, I'm going to fast forward through this. Let's see how Sarah's looking. Does she look pleased or is she angry? Let's get a look. Let's see. What do you guys think? Angry or happy? She looks like she's strategizing, doesn't she? All right, I don't think she's going to give us anything to laugh about. Oh, she's busy with her papers, y'all. She has very important papers that she has to take care of. She does look a little pleased, doesn't she? She has a little bit of a little snarky little smirk on her face. Yeah. That's our Sarah. She's annoyed. She may be pretty, but I hope she's annoyed. My boyfriend's dead and there's gonna be trouble.
Sir, you may be seated. After you're seated, if you can state and spell your name for the record for us.
Vincent Battaglia, VINCENT,
Thank you.
Vincent
Sure, you may
has
inquire.
a good, strong
Good morning,
voice.
sir.
Morning.
Can you tell us what it is you do for a living?
Right now I work for an auto parts company,
And where do you live?
New Jersey.
back on February of 2020, where were you living at that time?
I was living at the Tealwood Apartments in Winter Park, Florida.
And what were
Vincent
you doing
Battaglia.
at that time when you were living at Tealwood?
I was enrolled in Full Sail University. I was in school.
Oh, nice.
When you were living at Tealwood, did you have any roommates?
Yeah, I had one roommate, Brandon. Yeah, that was it.
That's Brandon Moats.
Yes.
Did you have neighbors?
Yeah.
Were you neighbors with Sarah Boone and George Torres?
Yes.
The neighbors from
And
hell.
approximately how long were you neighbors with them?
About a year, a little over a year. I moved there in January 2019.
But
And
it felt like a lifetime.
during the course of that year that you were neighbors with them, did you have occasion to interact with them at times?
Yeah.
In fact, did you ever go over to their home?
Yeah, like a couple times, yeah.
And I believe you tuned a guitar for a child there at the house?
Yes.
And did some puzzles.
This Tealwood apartment complex, how would you describe the walls that separated your units?
Thin, like very thin walls.
And with those walls being so thin, would you ever have occasion to hear arguing and yelling coming from Sarah Boone and George Torres's apartment?
Yeah.
How often would you hear this?
Almost daily.
Oh, that's so sad.
Did Sarah Boone ever approach you about the things that you heard coming from their apartment?
Yes.
And where were you when she approached you?
I was smoking a cigarette on my back patio.
And approximately what time
It was
was this?
pretty late. I can't remember the exact time, but it was definitely anywhere between like midnight to 2 a.m., like right around there.
And do you remember how much before the date when the police called that this had occurred?
A few months, like probably 4 to 5 months before that.
So 4 or 5 months before February
Oh,
of 2020.
Yeah.
And when she approached you on this late evening / early morning on that day, what did she tell you?
Pretty much just kind of like if I do hear anything like through the walls or whatever that's out back, just kind of keep my mouth shut. Like don't really speak about it or anything like that or say anything to anyone. And I just was like, okay.
Did she make any motions with her hands?
Yeah, like just kind of like, finger over the lips, like kind of shh, like keep it hush, like that kind of thing.
Wow, that doesn't really
So she
sound like a
told
woman
you
in fear for her
Not to
life.
report anything you may have heard about arguments or yelling or fighting, anything going on over there.
Yeah.
Do you recall?
What is the chance, you guys, that it was actually Sarah who was the aggressor? Because if she's the one getting hurt, wouldn't she want someone to call for help if he heard something? Why would she tell him not to tell unless it was she that was battering George? Right? Kind of like an asylum at the border. Exactly like an asylum at the border. Wow, that is very sad.
All the evening of February 23rd, 2020.
I do, yeah.
And what about that evening sticks out to you?
That sticks out to me from that night was literally just there was a very, very loud noise that I heard that was loud and powerful enough to shake my bedroom wall. And I remember that because I was sitting on my bed on FaceTime with my girlfriend at the time, and I literally felt the wall shake and it stopped me mid-conversation. She even asked me through the computer, what was that? And I was like, I have no idea.
Oh my
Did you
God.
hear any yelling coming from their apartment on that night?
Before that, yeah, like it was just arguing kind of stuff.
What was the last thing you heard?
The last thing I heard was like the loud noise and just a little bit of shuffling, and that was kind of it. It just kind of went silent after that.
Did you hear anything that was being said?
Not clearly, and it was never really anything clear. It was just like you could hear arguing back and forth, just kind of like and kind of like an I hate you, like it's whatever it is, whatever the argument was about kind of thing. at the time, that's really all it was. But it was never really clear enough to hear like a full argument. And honestly, I never really paid attention too much to it. If I heard it, I kind of stepped into my living room to be further away from it.
Did you hear both the defendant's voice and also George Torres's voice?
Yeah, all the time. It was like a back and forth.
So other than the statements and the phrases of I hate you, you weren't able to discern the contents of this argument.
No.
What was the last sound you heard?
The last sound that I heard was like the loud banging noise that it was like a very odd sounding noise that I've never heard before this day, but it very much sounded like it was like where my bed was positioned. It was kind of towards the back of the apartment, and it almost sounded like it was coming towards me, but like on the side of me, then it was just like a loud rumbling noise that literally sounded like it was kind of far away from me, and then it like ended up like almost next to me. Like I said, the walls are thin, so like it's very easy to hear like through the walls, and not even just sideways. Like I hear my upstairs neighbor like all around, very thin walls.
Now, was your bedroom, where was it located in your apartment?
The back of the apartment, so it was like there's like a little kick out next to my patio, and that's like that was my bedroom back there, like along the grass back there.
On the first floor?
On the first floor, yeah.
I have no further questions.
Any cross-examination?
Mr. Tagley,
Good morning.
now you said that you lived there next to Sarah Boone and George Torres for about a year.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that the police were called to their residence
Like,
while you were there for the year? Are you aware of any incident in which the police were called to their residence?
I had never seen anybody there, but I had other neighbors in the complex tell me that it has been on multiple occasions. So that's why.
Just instead of what somebody else told you,
Yeah.
just what you would observe. Did you ever, the year that you were there living next to them?
Yeah.
Were you ever aware that the police were called to their residence?
No, the times that I was home, I never saw any police at the apartment there.
And did you work odd hours or?
Yeah, and with my schooling and stuff too, I used to have class at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So all the time I was at random moments, like just not home throughout the day and night and stuff like that. So yeah.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not, based on your interaction with Sarah Boone,
I'm going to object.
Let me finish the question first, please.
do you know from your experience with Sarah Boone and your experience with George Torres that they drank alcohol?
Yeah.
Hang on.
I'll withdraw to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Are you aware that they both consumed alcohol to excess?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, of course.
So Vincent, I think you had testified, you may have given a statement to law enforcement,
Yes, it was one of the detectives.
a recorded statement.
Yes, I can't remember his name, but yes.
Okay, and I think it was on February 23rd of 2020.
Yeah, right around that time. Yeah.
I believe you had said that,
I'm going to object this to improper.
Motion.
Uh-oh.
seven PM.
7 p.m.
Yes.
Which day was this?
Sunday, February 23rd, 2020.
No, that day I actually got home from work probably around 1 or 2 o'clock or so.
In the morning?
No, in the afternoon, because I went to work that morning at around 5 a.m.
And you said that you heard the normal yelling and arguing at about that time when you got home?
No, it was around that time, but it was really around like 10 o'clock, 10:30 is when like the arguing I could really hear clearly. It was like around 10:30 at night.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Can you redirect?
Just very briefly.
Yes, sir.
So on cross-examination, you were asked about the arguing you heard, and I believe your testimony was that it was pretty intense around 10:30.
Yeah.
Approximately what time was it that you heard this loud crashing thump sound that you described?
Little after that.
Overruled.
It was a little after that arguing and stuff. It was probably around 11:15, probably 30, 45 minutes after like the arguing I could hear started.
No other questions?
Can this witness be released?
Yes, John.
Not subject to recall.
We would like to subject to recall. You guys know.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
okay, Nancy. All right, let's fast forward through this. Boy, she is
All
feeling
right, sir. You are released,
sassy.
not subject to recall. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. You were magnificent.
The state would call Brandon Moats.
Bless you. Thank you, sir. You can be seated. State and spell your name for the record for us.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Moats, BRANDON MOATS.
Thank you. Mr. Castro, you may inquire.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us how it is that you knew Sarah Boone?
I moved into the apartment next door to her when I was in college.
And so when was that you were in college?
I would have moved down here in 2019 and would have been there until like 2021. 2022.
So she was your neighbor at Tealwood Apartments, is that correct?
Yeah, it would have been Tealwood back then, yeah.
And did you have any roommates back then?
Yes, I was rooming with Vincent Battaglia.
And during that time, what were you doing?
Like,
as far as work and school?
oh, I was just going to school. During the time of this, yeah, I would have just been going to school. I don't think I would have had my job yet. I was just a student.
Did you have much interaction with the defendant or with George Torres in this case?
Honestly, I avoided them as much as possible usually.
I can't imagine why, Brandon.
The apartment where you lived, tell us, how would you describe the walls that separated the units?
Yeah, I remember that my bedroom was like the front-facing bedroom, and our walls shared a wall with where their staircase was. So, like the way the apartments were laid out, we had a one-story apartment, they had a two-story apartment. So they had a staircase running right next to the walls, next to like our bedrooms.
So that's what Vincent heard.
Did you ever have occasion to hear arguing and yelling going on inside of the defendant's apartment?
Yes, the walls were pretty thin, so if people were yelling, definitely hear it.
And how often?
So Sarah, it seems like she must have put, yeah, she must have put him in the suitcase upstairs and then pushed the suitcase over and down the stairs. And that's what Vincent heard, right? Which would also account for the extensive injuries that George had. Wow. Wow, this is so much like Letitia Stout. Golly.
Would you hear arguments or disagreements going on over there?
When I first moved in, it was so like it was at least like once a week, to the point that I started tuning them out. Like I got good enough at just like not listening to them. They argued very, very often.
Do you recall the evening of February 23rd, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, could you hear arguing going on in their unit?
Not late into the evening, earlier into the evening, probably like 7, 8 o'clock. That evening, probably like earlier on, I could hear arguing.
And where were you inside of your apartment?
I would have been in my bedroom pretty much all night.
And your bedroom, just so that we can paint the picture, where would that would have been, on the first floor or the second floor?
We had a first floor apartment.
Okay, so all the units were, or all the bedrooms were on the first floor.
Yeah, like I was saying before, we had a one-story apartment, and then they next door had like a two-story townhouse. So we only had the one floor.
And at a certain point in the evening, did you hear a loud crashing sound?
Yeah, probably around 10:30, 11 o'clock that evening.
And can you describe that sound for us in more detail?
I mean, yeah, literally, like I said, at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, it's the way their staircase was set up. I could, my bedroom, the top of their staircase would have been like above my ceiling. It ends next to where like my roommate's apartment was. So I could hear something start above me super loud and then fall away from me.
Okay, I have a little interjection here. Trigger warning. It's not going to be a pleasant thought, but I think we have to consider it, okay? So he's saying that he heard the loud noise at about 10:30 at night, correct? And we know that the next day it was about 1 or 1:30 when Sarah finally got out of bed and said, "Oh my gosh, my boyfriend is dead in the suitcase." So that is 12, 14 hours, right? 10:30 at night to, oh no, it actually may be longer than that. 10:30 at night, 10:30 in the morning, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30. So actually about 15 hours, right? So she says that when she comes downstairs and realizes that he's in the suitcase, that she immediately unzips him, straightens his legs out, pulls him so she could do CPR, right? Well, so when you consider livor mortis and rigor mortis, 6 to 8 hours, rigor mortis goes from being like in the finer features of the face, the jaw, the eyelids. It spreads to the limbs, the legs and the arms. And then within 12 to 24 hours after death, rigor mortis is sustained and the body is completely immobile. So the body doesn't begin to release until 36 to 48 hours after death. How did she unfold his legs and take him out of the suitcase if he's in full rigor mortis? That can't be. Strange. All right. Okay, so I just wanted to work that out because we'll get the autopsy, we'll get the coroner, we'll comment on all those issues, but it's something to think about. Just sort of, well, Sarah, did you lie about what you did when you found him? Because it's not likely you unfolded him from that suitcase.
Like it was falling down the stairs.
Did this affect the walls that were between your two apartments?
Oh yeah, me and my roommate. I remember me and my roommate talking the next day about like we could literally like it shook both of our rooms.
Did you ever have occasion to talk with the defendant about what happened?
I never saw her after that. She would have. Yeah, I never saw her after that happened.
No further questions.
Any cross-examination?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, you were asked by the state if you ever had any interactions with Sarah Boone or George Flores. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I think you said you tried to avoid them.
Yeah. I don't like drunk people, and they were drunk a lot, so I did not interact with them.
You know what, Brandon? I like you.
This interaction with Sarah Boone in 2009 when you woke up and witnessed Sarah.
I would have been 9 years old in 2009.
I'm sorry, 2019. Catch. In 2019, when you woke up and witnessed Sarah sleeping on the concrete patio.
Oh, this may have been a slight misconception in how I said this. I never woke up and saw her sitting on the patio myself. That I would have seen her on the patio eventually, but it's not like I woke up and went back and saw her on the patio. This was my roommate relaying the story that she had fallen asleep on the back patio, and then I saw her.
So you did not witness that yourself, or did you see her?
I saw her asleep on the back patio. I was just clearing up the sequence of events there.
Okay. Another time, do you recall our interaction with Miss Boone when you were coming home from school and she was trying to talk to you and she seemed paranoid and rambling? And
Yeah, I had gotten locked out of my apartment, so I was waiting on the steps to. I was like waiting on the steps outside of my apartment for my roommate to get home. So she came up and started talking to me. I don't really remember too many like details of what she was saying because I didn't want to talk to her. She just, but yeah.
Okay. Do you remember saying that you believe Sarah was avoiding going into her apartment?
That's definitely the vibe. I don't remember what she was saying, but like the vibe she was giving off was that she didn't want to go home.
Now I believe, and I just want to make sure that I heard you. You said that the first arguments, other than the boom, which was like 10 something, initially it was around the 7 p.m. You heard arguing.
It would have, yeah, because it would have been. I remember that day I got home from class around 5, because I got out of class around 4:30 usually and walked home, so I would have gotten home around 5:30, and it would have been after I took, because I came home, I made myself lunch, and I took a shower, and then I heard all of their arguing, so it would have been about an hour and a half, 2 hours after I got home, so around 7 to 8 o'clock.
And during that time, when you say arguing, was it back and forth?
I honestly, I wouldn't really be able to say if it was back and forth. I don't know too, like, I wouldn't remember too vividly if it was back and forth.
So let me ask you this: did you hear a male voice?
Yes, I heard a male voice.
Did you hear a female voice? Yes. Okay. Were they both loud?
Yes.
If I can confirm, Judge.
Yes, sir, of course. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Can this witness be released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Subject to recall.
All right. All right, sir, you're released subject to recall. Thank you.
Wonder what she's so busy doing with all those papers. I used to wonder like what Jodi Arias was writing. But at least for her, she was drawing pictures, right? Can't imagine what this knucklehead is doing.
Our jury, thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your participation in this very important process. It is 12:21. At this point in time, we're going to go ahead and take our lunch break. I'm going to ask that you return here no later than 2 p.m. so we can pick up at that point in time outside of here, 12 Alpha in the Orange County Courthouse. And I'm going to give you an instruction. You're going to hear this instruction a lot over the next couple of days. Jurors, you must not conduct any investigation.
Yeah, that's kind of a scary look. She has got shark eyes, doesn't she? Snake eyes. They're dead. All right, let's see. I'm just curious, everyone. Do you find her to be a little frightening? I'm not being a smart aleck. I'm being serious. She has a very uncomfortable countenance, doesn't she? She looks like Big Nurse. There you go. Yeah, she kind of creeps me out a little bit in the same way that Barry Morphew did. Like her, she kind of scary looking to me. Look at that. Yeah, she's snaky. Ooh, she's a snake. Snaky snake. You a killer, girl.
our jury. All right, y'all can be seated. Thank you. Your lunch. If you can reflect, all jurors' hands have been raised.
Statement called Brian Boone.
Oh, here we go now. This is her ex. I wonder if she's going to smile at him and do a real cute little wave, you know? Hi, Big Bri. Here he comes. He's my husband. I was married to him. He's cute. Wait till you see him. He's a really good guy. He's a really nice guy. Yeah. Oh, he was great. We had lots of fun together. Oh, can I make an observation, please? Does this man look like an adult? Right? He looks like a grown-ass man. Did you see George? George and Sarah together look like they were 13, 14, 15 years old. Something happened to Sarah when she was in her early teens. She's married to this man for years. Why would she leave an adult, a grown person, a mature, healthy man to go to someone who looks like one of the bad boys, one of the bad popular boys, right? Because she's stuck. She had trauma and now she's stuck in that age. It's so sad, so tragic.
Sir, good afternoon. You could be seated. After seated, if you could please state and spell your name for the record for us.
Brian Boone, Brian Boone.
Thank you, sir. You may inquire.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us how it is that you know the defendant?
I dated her for quite a while, and then we eventually got married.
You say you dated her for quite a while. How long are we talking?
I met her in the late 90s, and I believe it was around 2005 when we got married.
Did you have any children as a result of your marriage?
Yes, we had one son.
And how old is that son?
He is currently getting ready to turn 14.
Wow. So sad.
Did your marriage with the defendant last?
No, it did not.
And approximately when was it that you separated and began proceedings for divorce?
Probably 2017, I'm thinking maybe.
And at that time, when was your divorce actually finalized?
Oh, maybe it was 2016. I think the divorce was 2017. I believe.
He's trying to forget that.
After your divorce, what was your custody arrangement with your son that you had in common with the defendant?
She was supposed to have him on Mondays and Tuesdays. I would have him Wednesday, Thursdays, and then we'd alternate Friday through Sundays every other week.
So 1 week you would have 5 days with your son, and another week she would have 5 days with him.
Correct.
And was this still the same custody arrangement in February of 2020?
Yes.
And in February of 2020, did you have, do you recall the events that occurred, I guess, first on the late evening of February 23rd, 2020?
On that evening?
Yes.
Well, apparently Sarah called me at one point during the night.
Do you recall about what time she called you?
I think it was 11 something.
When you answered the phone, how did Sarah sound on the phone?
She sounded like she had been drinking, was pretty drunk.
Were you able to understand what the defendant was saying?
Somewhat, but she woke me up. I had work the next day. I was asleep when she called. She's done this before, calling me late at night, and generally I kind of just try to ignore it, so I wasn't really paying attention.
Who was she living with at the time?
George Torres?
When she called you late that evening, could you hear George in the background at all?
Not that I remember, no.
Did you pay much attention to this phone call?
No.
Now, the following morning, on February 24th, 2020, did you begin to call the defendant?
Yes, I did.
And approximately what time did you begin to call the defendant?
I think it was like 11 o'clock or something.
And why was it that you were calling her?
Well, it was going to be Monday. I had him on Sunday and dropped him off at school, and I was calling to trying to find out if she was going to be actually picking him up that day.
Why would you have a question about whether or not she was picking him up?
She wasn't generally very good about actually getting him on the day she was supposed to.
So it was not uncommon for you to have to remind her to pick him up or to make sure that she was going to pick him up.
Well, I mean, remind or just find out if she was going to, or if she was just going to give him over to me as what happened.
Do you remember at what time on February 24th you actually got in touch with the defendant?
I think it was like 12:30 or something.
And when you actually got in touch with her, what did she tell you on the phone?
That George was dead, and if I would come over.
Wow.
Did she say what happened to him?
I don't remember if she told me then on the phone or when I got there, but she told me they had been playing hide and seek and that she fell asleep.
What did you advise her to do?
I told her she needed to call 911 and that I would come over as soon as I could.
And this is on your first phone call here at approximately 12:30
Yes.
on 2/24/20.
Yes.
Did she call you again while you were en route to her residence?
She did. She called to find out if I was still going to be coming over.
And when you spoke with her while you were en route, what, if anything, did you advise her?
I told her she needed to call 911 and told her I was on my way, but she needed to get somebody over there.
How long did it take you to arrive at her residence?
From the first phone call or?
Yes, from the first one.
Well, I mean, I live a minute or two drive away, but I had to get my puppy. We had just gotten a puppy recently. I had to get him in his crate and stuff like that and put something on because I was working from home. Total time, maybe 10 minutes.
When you arrived at her apartment, tell us what she told you when you arrived.
George was dead, and once again, I don't remember if she told me now or before that they had been playing hide and seek and she fell asleep. But I, at that time, told her again she needed to get 911 called to get somebody over there.
Had she called 911 at this point?
No, she had not.
So you've advised her now 3 times to call 911.
Yes.
Did you go inside of her apartment?
I walked in the front door into the little tiled area, like entranceway thing.
What, if anything, did you observe when you made it to that point?
Looking into the living room, I could see like the end of his feet and maybe a little bit of some legs that were kind of coming out around the backside of the kitchen area.
Did you continue to go into the apartment?
No.
Where did you go?
Sarah told me she was going to call 911 and go outside and have a cigarette and a drink and asked me to come out there with her. And I told her that I didn't really feel comfortable being inside. And I went out front and got in my car and waited for people to show up.
Did you witness the defendant call 911?
I think I was in there when she dialed it and first got somebody on the phone, but I wasn't there for the whole conversation. No, I was outside.
Did you stay there at the scene while police arrived?
Yes, I was there. I was part of it. I knew I'd have to talk to somebody, so.
Did you talk with law enforcement?
I did.
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
We want to observe our questions for when we call him in our case.
Okay. All right, sir, you're subject to recall.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Big Bry.
Just as long as he remains on the street.
My understanding is subject to recall.
Those audio contacting them.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Imagine how different Sarah's life would have been if she had just stayed in an adult relationship. Imagine how different the life of the child could be, and maybe it was best for the child that his mother not live in the house with him. Alcoholism, drug addiction, it's a terrible thing.
State, you may call your next witness.
You want to make me approach a moment?
Yes. Members of the jury, we'd appreciate your patience for a few moments while the state attaches a Bluetooth speaker so that they may publish some evidence that's been raised, sir.
Twenty-fourth, 2020. It's 300 minutes. Call on Monday, February 24th, 2020.
911, what is the location of the emergency? 4748 Brent Court, apartment 3. 4748, what's the street name? Brant, F-R-A-N-T-D. And their appointment number? 3. Is this a police or medical? My boyfriend is dead. Okay, then allow for the fight appointment, do not hang up. That's good. No, please don't leave. 4748 Brent Lane, apartment 3, Brent Court. Brent Court? Yes.
Okay, is this near Mackenzie Drive?
I don't know where that is.
Okay.
It's still with her apartment.
Okay, 4748 Brent, correct?
Correct.
All right, correct. Now tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I had in a case of your playing, and but kind of hide and seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep, and I woke up, and he was studying the case. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Well, okay, what's your apartment number?
3.
Number 3?
Yeah, it's like he had like blood coming out of his mouth, and I don't know like he had like an aneurysm on what happened.
Right, okay, all right, okay. So we're getting here from 2. All right, okay. Okay,
Now?
Okay, 407, man, it's water over there. You're 407 716 8684. Okay, you hanging from somewhere or what, man?
No, I came out of the suitcase. I tried giving him CPR.
Okay, so you was in a suitcase?
Yes, and I fell asleep.
Okay, how old are you working there? 42-year-old man. All right. Okay, we're setting up, okay, sheriff's officer around there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. All right, listen to me. Okay, that you need to confirm this. No, right, I just need to confirm this. Did you awake at all? Is he conscious at all?
No, he's purple.
Is he breathing?
No.
All right. I need you to get him on the floor down his back for me, okay?
I did. I tried giving him CPR.
All right.
I tried giving him CPR.
Yeah, okay, well,
Nothing happened. He's purple.
okay, listen, you did the definition of the bill. I need you to get it for me, okay?
What is
And
it?
you need to get available?
No.
All right, you right by him now?
I'm sorry?
You right by him now?
Yes.
Okay, man, listen, so this is he cold and stiff?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's not necessarily cold, but it's stiff.
Right, okay. All right, listen to me. Listen, I want you to lay flat his back from me on the floor. Remove the bills, okay?
Yes, I did.
All right, okay. Wait.
He's stiff and he's purple.
Right, okay, listen, okay, man, that's fine. We're still looking for two compression bills, okay? All right? So if you look your hand on his breastbone, ready to set up the chest, ready to the nipples.
Yes.
Put your hands up on that hand.
Ready, I'm coming. Just like I can tell.
Okay.
Please, okay, just go.
Okay, listen to me. All right, I want you to make the heel of your hand. Okay, ready to his chest, ready to his breastbone. Put your hands up on that hand. We want the pump his chest to be hard and fast. Going to twice per second.
Okay, again.
Okay, no, just keep on pumping. That's all you need to do for me. Keep on pumping his chest over this. I don't need you to stop and talk or anything. I just want you to count those out for me, okay?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. But this is 19.
Okay, man, just keep on pumping his chest. That's all you need to do for me, okay?
Yes. Come on, please, hurry up.
Okay, man, just grab me as fast as you can. Okay, stop and say hurry up. Just keep on pumping it down. Okay. All right, just keep pumping his chest. Count them up so he can come with you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31.
You know what I think is so fascinating? You know, when you go through a shock like that, a trauma like that, and then you either have to tell the story or you listen to a recording, what do most people do? They get triggered and they remember that moment, right? They're propelled back in time to where they're back in that moment. And so they'll start trembling, they'll start weeping. Does she look affected at all? I mean, she doesn't look like she's having even irritation. That is very strange to see.
1, 32, please, buddy.
Okay, man, just get here as fast as they can, okay?
He's there, and he's purple.
Okay, begin open his chest for me, ma'am.
I'm still doing it, okay? Still doing it. Still doing it.
Right, okay, that's fine. You do the job. Just keep on doing it for me then. All right, they're getting as fast as they can. I'll know what the sheriff's office also, okay?
Please.
Keep on pumping, ma'am. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep on pumping for me, ma'am.
I'm not doing it, okay? We're playing me.
All right, I understand. All right, keep on pumping for me, okay? Okay.
Please, hurry.
Right, okay.
Horrible. This is horrific. What happened? Like, what happened?
Okay, ma'am, keep on pumping the chest for me, okay? They're in the parking lot. They should be off there shortly, okay?
I'm still doing it, okay?
Right, okay, good. And you found them in a suitcase, you said?
Yes. We were playing hide and seek last night. I fell asleep. I think they're here.
Right, just keep on pumping the chest until they get over, okay?
I am.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Owens seems more upset than Sarah.
Okay, come in. Can I stop coming out?
Let that take over for you, okay?
What was the last time anybody saw him? The last time? We're playing hide and seek. He has a certificate. Okay. Unfortunately, he's been down too long. There's nothing to do. Hello, ma'am? So,
So we're there, obviously.
No, not that.
Hey, ma'am, they're not going to take you, okay? That's all we'll see there.
All right. Oh, ma'am, still there? Hello? Contact 716-8684, residential mobile. 1308.
Call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system for
We're ready to continue the presentation.
Yes, sir. You may call your next witness.
State you call Abraham Moreno.
I mean, she is not affected, not in the least. The attorney was upset. That is unbelievable. Yeah, he was definitely affected by the trauma, the tragedy of it. Yeah, wow. That was sad.
Sir, good afternoon. Could you state and spell your name for the record for us?
Abraham, A-B-R-A-H-A-M, last name is Moreno, Moreno.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated.
So this is Abraham Marino. I want to take a minute and just thank everybody for being here. I appreciate it. I know, Friday night, there's a lot going on in YouTube. So I worked all day, so I didn't get to watch the trial. And so that's what we're doing now. And I appreciate you watching with me and chatting, and thank you for being here.
Mr. Castro, you may inquire.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Tell us, what do you do for a living?
I'm a maintenance supervisor for apartment complexes.
Is that what your position was back in February of 2020?
Yes, it was.
And what apartment complex?
Tealwood Park Apartments,
And how long did you work for Tealwood Park Apartments?
about 2 years.
And tell us, what were some of your duties in your position there with Tealwood Park?
Daily, I cleaned the grounds, walked the property, answered maintenance calls, did emergencies, dealt with vendors.
Did you become familiar with the residents there at the apartment complex?
Yes,
Did you have occasion to meet the defendant in this case and also a George Torres?
yes.
Let me turn your attention to February 24th of 2020. Do you recall that date?
Yes.
And on that date, did you have occasion to come in contact with the defendant in this case?
Yes, I did.
And tell us, what was the circumstances in which you came into contact with her on February 24th, 2020?
I was called by the manager and the assistant manager to come to her unit. I believe she was already sitting outside at that time.
And when she was sitting outside of her unit, what, if anything, did you observe about her and about the unit?
The police was there. Her ex-husband was present. She was sitting outside, and that's when she decided she wanted to talk to me and the managers.
And what did she tell you?
That she's confused. She's not exactly sure what happened. She pointed out that she recalls that they were playing a game of hide and seek. There was an instance where you were going to teach him a lesson, and then she just doesn't recall anything up until the next morning.
Did she say she fell asleep?
Yes, she did.
Did she say things got out of hand?
I don't really recall that part, but I do recall her stating that they were playing their game and that George went into a suitcase, and I didn't ask any questions. I just let her talk for herself
How long was this conversation?
for about 4 or 5 minutes.
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
You may inquire, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
This conversation that you had with Miss Boone,
Yes.
that took place on the 24th? Is that correct?
Yes.
And who else was present on the time that the conversation was taking place?
Standing right next to me would have been Melissa Sexton and Eugene Harris, as well as the officer who was in front of the door.
Okay. So there was a law enforcement officer there that day, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, on the 24th is when you said that Miss Boone made this statement to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
They were playing hide and seek?
Yes.
And what else did she say happened?
She had told me they were playing hide and seek. They had drank. She was trying to teach him a lesson, and that was that. She went upstairs. She went to sleep. She woke up. She doesn't know what happened.
Okay. So that was on the 24th?
Yes.
All right. On the 26th, were you not interviewed by law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. So
I may have my days wrong, but it all happened on the same day.
all right, the 24th, do you remember 2 days later that a Detective Scott Lowen conducted an interview with you at 4704 Lucier Court, Winter Park, Florida? You remember that interview?
Yes.
So that was 2 days later, is that correct?
I would assume so.
Yes. All right. So when he interviewed you 2 days later, did you tell him about this statement that Miss Boone made to you that you just told this jury in court?
I did mention it to him.
You did mention it to him?
I mentioned to them that we did have a conversation.
Did you tell him the content of the conversation?
I may not have told him the whole content, but I did tell him we had a conversation.
All right. Well, what did you tell him? What content did you tell him on the 26th?
That they were playing hide and seek, that she was confused. She doesn't know what happened. I do believe I did mention to him the fact that she had said that she was trying to teach him a lesson. Not that anything was done with malice. I didn't state that at all.
So it's your recollection now today that on the 26th, you told Officer Lowen what you just told this jury. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. Sir. In preparing for this case, did you have a meeting with the Assistant State Attorney on September 23rd of 2024?
Did I have a meeting?
Yes.
A brief chit chat over the phone.
A brief chit chat that was over the phone?
Yes, sir.
All right. At that point in time over the phone, did you tell him that Sarah Boone, the defendant, stated that she was teaching him a lesson and things got out of hand and that she fell asleep?
Yes.
Is that what you told him?
Yes.
Okay. And that was in 2024, September the 23rd of this year, 2024.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you telling us that back on February the 26th of 2020, you told Officer Lowen at that time the same thing?
As I recall, yes.
So did she ever tell you how things got out of hand?
No.
Sir, you testified that you knew both Mr. Torres and Miss Boone, is that correct?
Yes.
You actually knew George Torres from a different time, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
When did you first know George Torres?
In the 1990s.
In the 1990s?
He was a teenager and he lived down the street from me and my wife.
So you had a previous relationship with Mr. Torres?
No, not at all.
Not at all. You just knew him from then?
Yes, as I stated, he was a teenager and I was an adult.
Okay. During this time, though, that you became reacquainted with him, did y'all establish a friendship at that time here in Orlando?
I wouldn't say a friendship, but an acquaintance, yes.
Sir, on Monday, February the 24th, that would have been the day that you were with Ms. Saxon and Gene Harris.
Yes.
Out in front of the apartment.
Correct.
Did you talk to law enforcement that day?
No.
You did not talk to them that day?
I don't recall talking to him that day, no.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I don't have any, if I can confer.
You can, sir.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any further questions.
Any redirect examination?
Just brief.
All right, thank you.
Back in the 90s, when you had previously known George Torres in this case, where were you living at that time?
I lived across the street. I lived on one block. He lived the next block over down in the middle.
In what city?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And when did you move from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania?
2018.
So in the intervening years, from your move from Philadelphia to coming to work at Tealwood Park, did you have any contact with George Torres?
No, as a matter of fact, I'm from that particular block in 2005, so I don't meet Judge again until I work at Tealwood's.
When did you start working at Tealwood's?
2018, 2019, there.
No further questions.
Can this witness be released?
No, Your Honor, just subject to recall.
All right, sir. You'll be released subject to recall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Subject to recall. Another one bites dust. Another one
State,
bites
go next witness.
State will call Deputy Kayla Rodriguez.
Now we're getting into some detectives. I'm with you, Critter Watcher. They're just filling time until they can play the videos, because that's what's going to convict her.
Good afternoon, ma'am. You could be seated. Please state your name and spell it for the record if you could for us.
Kayla Rodriguez. Kayla, Kayla, Rodriguez, Rodriguez.
All right, thank you. Yes, story you make work.
She's delightful.
Can you tell us did you work for?
Orange County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your position with the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Deputy Sheriff.
And how long have you been a deputy sheriff?
A little over 8 years, since 2016.
I
Tell
like
us, what
her.
are your duties as a deputy sheriff?
As a deputy, I respond to calls for service, anything from a over with call, like a car being keyed the day prior, or a 911 emergency.
And what type of training do you need to be a deputy sheriff?
So for me, I obtained my bachelor's degree from UCF in criminal justice in 2014. After that, in 2016, I was hired by the sheriff's office. Right after being hired, I went straight into the academy. The academy is 5 months of training. We go over everything from case law, scenarios, defensive tactics, physical training. After that, I do 2 more months with the sheriff's office where we go specifically into policy related to Orange County specifically. After that, I do 3 months on the road with a trainer where we are evaluated periodically through that process. You have a partner, you respond to calls for service during that time, and you slowly learn how to handle calls by yourself.
Well, I think you are
Do you
doing them
also,
proud.
undergo continuing training as a condition of your employment?
Yes.
Tell us, were you working on February 24th, 2020?
Yes.
And tell us, what area of the county were you working in?
Orange County, unincorporated Orange County.
And did you receive a call in regards to this case?
Yes.
And what was that call? What information did you have at the time you received the call?
So the dispatcher informed me that a woman called 911. She was actively performing CPR and that her boyfriend was in a suitcase.
And did you respond out?
God.
Yes.
And when you responded out to the scene, were you dressed similarly as you are dressed today?
Yes.
And just for the record,
Mrs. Smith in the parking garage with the suitcase. That is the contemporary Clue game.
you have, it looks like a standard green uniform on with a tool belt, your firearm, and also radio, body-worn camera, badge.
Yes.
Tell us about your body-worn camera.
So my body camera is used to capture scenes when we arrive. So as we are conducting any sort of law enforcement action, we turn our camera on.
When you turn your camera on, tell us, does it immediately capture sound at that point?
It does not. When we activate our camera, it goes back a minute. And the minute that it goes back to, you don't hear any audio for that first minute.
Tell us also about the capacity and the battery life of your camera as well.
So the battery will last us an entire shift typically if it's in a buffering mode. So if we're not recording, it will last the entire shift. As we record, it does drain the battery. So typically we will turn it off if we're sitting in our car for an extended period of time. If we call our supervisor, if we're talking to another deputy on the side, away from scene, we will not have the camera recording. If it recorded throughout the entire shift, the battery would die. We would need multiple batteries.
So you actually activate the camera in order to begin recording?
Correct.
Was your body camera operational on this call out?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, which was previously marked for identification? It states H, I, and G that have been shown to defense.
You may.
Ma'am, I'm first showing you what's been marked for identification as states I. Do you recognize that disc?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to review that disc prior to coming to court today?
Yes.
And tell us, what is that disc?
Body worn camera from the day of the incident.
From February 24, 2020?
Correct.
And is that your initials on the disc?
Yes.
And does that disc fairly and accurately represent the contents of your body worn camera?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I'd like to move what's previously been marked for identification as states I into evidence.
Any objections? No objection. What was pre-marked as I will be received into evidence without objection as states 4.
Ma'am, next I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as states H. Can you take a look at that disc? Tell us, what is that disc?
Body worn camera from the day of the incident.
From February 24, 2020?
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to review that disc prior to coming to court today?
Yes.
And is that your initials on the disc?
Yes.
And does that disc fairly and accurately represent the contents of that portion of your body worn camera?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I'd like to move what's been marked for identification as states H into evidence.
No objection to any of those coming in.
What was pre-marked as states H will be received without objection as states 5.
And lastly, ma'am, I'm showing you some marker identification at stage G. Do you recognize this disc?
Yes.
And tell us, what is that disc?
Body worn camera from the day of the incident.
From February 24th, 2020?
Yes.
And you had an opportunity to review this camera prior to coming to court?
Yes.
And that's your initials on the disc?
Yes.
It fairly inaccurately represents your conduct on the body-worn camera?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move Mr. Marker identification of stage G into evidence.
Thank you. What was pre-marked as States G will be received without objection to State 6.
Kranick is so glad that this is moving along.
Your Honor, may we dim the lights and use the overhead projector?
Yes.
Turn out the lights, the party's over. Soul Child. Yeah, she's awesome. Oh, Lord. Here we go.
I'll talk to you guys. That's my, the property manager. Tell him really quick, or where's he at? Oh, don't worry about that. We'll take care of that for you, okay?
Actually, it's on 1.25. Yeah, I've got it on 1.25.
Okay, well, I got my dog parked on the counter. Okay, you want that? For the time. What's going on? What's who is he? Boyfriend? Yes, for like 3.5 years. What happened? He and I, right, last night, had a case access to the, around the FBI stuff. They need to sign that, sure. No, no. You each of them has to, this might be a little thing, but each of them has to tell their name. What's going on? I just got here, so we. No problem. Together, we can do some artwork together. You are putting a puzzle together? Yes, we have a puzzle that we started with. Okay. We do art, trying to put stuff off the wall to make new art kind of like having a good time with one another. But we're drinking, we had a bottle of wine last night. So then it's like, we start to play hide and seek, right? Okay. So it's in the suitcase. Okay. That's my assistant. I told my husband. I didn't live with you guys? No. I told him over here. Okay. Okay. I didn't know what to do. Okay. I didn't know what to do. Okay. So then he came over here. Yeah, let's talk in private. Okay? I called you guys. The problem is, I fell asleep. When did you do CPR? This morning. When I found it before you called. Yeah. 1 o'clock right now. I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30. So I came downstairs and I was like, oh, still. That's what I found him. I took him out. I tried doing CPR and then I called him and then I called you guys. Did he be here before the final time they got here? True. Your husband or ex-husband? Okay. Where do you live at? Right down the street. Okay.
Notice not a single tear. Not one.
I did, but then I fell asleep. Okay, stop. You okay? I wasn't there. I'm just trying to figure out what happened. Like having an aneurysm or a heart attack or what? What kind of medical? None that I know of. None that I know of. No. All we had was a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine. Okay. Doing puzzles, artwork, and we decided to play hide and seek. That's all that happened. But I really never had a type of one there. Like, I don't know what happened. So how long were you doing CPR on him prior to calling out that one? Tried that all morning? Yes.
You could be right. Pretty
I told
short.
him while I was probably, ballpark. Here, let me fill this at the end, okay? Please, may I have my Dr. Pepper? I am still cutting out right now. Ma'am, and you can't talk to him until we get done with this, okay? Just don't leave, okay, Brian? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And Brian is saying, can I go home now, please? I divorced her. She's not my problem anymore.
You wanna help clear the back bedrooms real quick, just make sure there's nobody else in here? Nope, he was here with the girlfriend and that's the girlfriend's
Children.
husband. He's gonna.
Children do.
He's got him all morning for calling us. Yep. So I'm gonna go ahead and start making phone calls.
Okay, go ahead.
What do I do with this dog? Cause I don't want him to mess with, here, come here. Oh, perfect, okay. Yes. Hey, come on, let's go outside. Come on, come on.
Good boy.
What's up, Kitty? You think about it, guys? But you just want to make sure. I put my door on. Touching it.
Orange County.
There's nothing.
No blanket on the bed?
Put it over here. We check this closet. The garage. That's the garage.
All right, I guess we're gonna have to set up a crime scene now. What's that?
Yes, soul child, 2 of them.
I can get you some water, okay? Just I want you not on your feet. I don't want you passing out. I need to find water. Okay, I'll get some for you.
So sad.
Your Honor, request permission to publish States 5.
You may proceed.
I have to say it. This judge is so glad that this show is on the road. He has been dealing with this for years.
Let's go ahead and start making the calls. Yes, could you go ahead and give me his last name, Torres? Spell it for me, Torres. And his first name, Torres,
Straight A's, baby.
Jorge. His birthday, 2/13/78. And this is the boyfriend. How long? 3.5 years. Living together that whole time. And your last name? Boone. Spell it Boone. First name, Sarah. Sarah. Birthday, 10/10/77. So you had a second to kind of collect yourself. Tell it to me again. You guys were playing last night, drinking a bottle of wine. Putting us together, doing artwork. Puzzles, artwork. Had a bottle of wine and they decided to play hide and seek. So what time was that? Do you remember? I mean, I know that I was in bed probably by like what, 12:30? Okay, well, I went upstairs at least, and I fell asleep, forgetting that he was in the suitcase.
Playing the hide and go.
Yes.
And at some point you put him in the suitcase?
No, he got in the suitcase. So he thought it would be funny to be put in the suitcase. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna joke with you and I'll dig you up and make him, squirm a little bit, whatever it is. But then I fell asleep.
Where was the suitcase?
Right where it is.
Right down there?
Yes.
You dipped him in there?
Yes.
You find a little.
It was. We both were laughing about it. And then I fell asleep.
Where did you fall asleep at?
Upstairs.
In your bedroom?
Yes.
Okay.
Totally forgetting that he was in the suitcase still.
Okay. And then you came back downstairs?
This morning, or this afternoon, yes, when I got up.
What time?
12:30-ish. I was awake, but I
No, you
forgot
weren't.
that he was in the suitcase.
No, you weren't.
He can tell you there's a lot of things that I/Rhea think of
Don't drag Brian into it.
stuff, so I just totally
You
forgot.
began to do CPR on him?
Yes. Yes.
About
And
what
gurgle.
time this morning did you
Gurgle.
start doing that CPR?
No, it was the afternoon. It was afternoon because I was awake. So then I finally decided to come downstairs at like 12:30-ish, whatever it is. And I was like, he wasn't moving, nothing was happening. So I unzipped him, took him out and started doing CPR on him. He was on his way over here. I called you when he got here.
Once he got here, you called us?
Yes.
Okay.
And air was coming out and he was gurgling, but I could tell by looking at him.
But you knew how to do CPR, you were doing that on your own?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the person that was on the phone with me also, I counted with him doing.
And he's got no medical, he doesn't take any
I
medication?
don't know, I don't know medical wise, I know he doesn't take any medications whatsoever. The only thing, like I said, I don't know if alcohol has to do with it, but we had a bottle of wine.
Okay, all right, good. I want you to sit back down, because I don't want
Can I
you.
have one more sip of water?
Yes, go on. I'll do what I can to get you a cup. I don't want you to have to keep doing that.
My God. I can't believe she did
Talk to
that.
like right there.
Right on the throat.
Sit right here, don't talk to the ex-husband right
Oh,
now.
I won't. Can I have a cigarette, please?
Ma'am, I can't take anything out of the house.
It's on the back porch.
Nope, all of it, secure, okay?
And look how swollen her face is. Her liver is shot.
I'll try my best to get you what you need, okay? Maybe one of these extra packs, a pack from someone, sit down and I'll try and get you what you need, okay?
Just cut.
Okay. I don't want you on your feet. Yes, you put him out. He came back in? So there's no thanks then? Corporal asked me to give you a rundown? She's, sitting on her. I was getting ready to call you guys. Yeah. Wanna talk over here?
Your Honor, request permission to publish State 6.
Hey, Sarah. You get enough water? No, you want to stay seated. I don't want you getting lightheaded. So remember I said the detectives were gonna come out and talk to you and go from there. You know what I'm saying? They're here. They're gonna ask you a few questions and then go from there, okay? All right.
All right, Sarah, my name is Chelsea, my partner Scott. My understanding you reside here? Okay, is it just you, okay. Your former husband, okay. But you reside here with George and then your son lives with you or lives, there's 50/50? Okay. So from what, has told me, she explained, last night that you guys were drinking a bottle of wine, and around midnight, you decided, you guys, okay. You guys decided to play hide and seek.
Well, we were playing hide and seek and then.
Was your son home at the time or, okay,
No, it was fine. It was fine.
okay,
Decided to play, we just did it like that, like, we were putting puzzles together, we were doing artwork. You can see the puzzle that we finished in there and then the artwork and then decided to play hide and seek with the student.
okay.
So he decided to get in the suitcase, so I thought it would be funny to, and he was talking about it too, to get him up in there. I go upstairs and he fell asleep. So this morning when I was like, got me, I actually got up out of the bed. I thought for sure he was downstairs on the laptop. Really quiet. So then I came upstairs and I'm like, where is he? Like, and that's what I found.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
Okay. And then you weren't sure about if you woke up this morning?
It was afternoon. I mean, I was
Or this afternoon?
but I just didn't want to come downstairs. So
Okay.
I played in bed for a little while. And then I eventually went downstairs. He was about where he was. And then I was like, oh my God. So I pulled him out and I took him out. And I tried to make CPR for him. I helped you guys. So I called Brian. And then as soon as he got here, which is 30 minutes on the road, I called you guys. Okay. The person on the phone had me do the session. So I can come with them and so you guys shut up.
Okay. And, so as part of our investigation, we obviously have to go inside the house. We have to look at things. Are you okay with us going in the house and looking at things? Okay. And forensics, so we have to have our forensics crime scene investigators come out. Are you also okay with them coming inside, taking photographs and? Okay.
Can I ask, is Brian, George, was he diagnosed with that kind of mental illness?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't take drugs. I mean, we'll have these people bottle of wine in there, but I don't know.
So you guys don't normally drink, you just drink once in a while, or?
Well, I'm gonna say like, okay, I guess normal drinking is like, we will have like a glass of wine or two, like we're at the center, church, here, and we'll say that's working with them. But it's not like.
Couple years a day.
Like, I don't understand though, like, for the little bit that we had, like, not high. Like, I don't know if they had a heart attack or a stroke or what happened. I don't know.
So were you guys together all day yesterday? Okay. You're, like, neither of you left the apartment yesterday?
I remember that before to get cigarettes.
Okay.
But it's walk there.
This guy, no, he doesn't now. He said he doesn't.
I don't know.
As far as you've ever known him, you've never seen him.
No. I mean, he's from Philadelphia and he grew up in Philadelphia and then he went to Massachusetts and then from Massachusetts he came down here. So I don't really know like a whole lot of like medical history or.
How long have you guys been together?
Almost 4 years, like 3.5 years.
You guys been living here the whole time?
Yes.
You've never been to the doctor or to the hospital during that time?
He and his brother got into a really bad argument at one point and had facial reconstruction. But he has been in the hospital from that, and then I talked him into going to see like a regular physician, to get like a regular like checkup thing, but there were no red flags.
How long ago was that?
The surgery or the doctor? The surgery, I think, was at this point, what, 2 years maybe, 2.5 years. The checkup was probably in the 2 years too.
And the suitcase is still in there?
Yep,
Is it normally stored down there, or did you guys travel recently?
No, he was gonna start from, what do you call it? Donation in there, so that's why
it's out. Okay, you guys did recently travel somewhere and like that.
After you zip them up, did you move the bag around and up the wall, or you just zip it up and come away
I
after?
was laughing about it, but I went upstairs and I fell asleep.
But what position was he in when you went in? Was he sitting on his rear end and his head up and he just kind of
No, okay, so like this is like this is his head and then he's right here.
So he was laying on his side?
Yes.
You just closed the flap and zipped it around?
Yes.
Okay.
I moved real quick.
Understand this? Okay.
So he said that I needed to tell you guys about his family. Like, who do I talk to about?
We're gonna do that once we walk through and see. Yeah, we're gonna.
I can tell you, like, I'm afraid for my life. I want you to know, I am afraid for my life. His family has never liked me. I'm the blue white devil, what they call me. So they've never liked me. They've never taken me in. They've never accepted me. I'll put it that way.
Have you called any of them?
We talked to his daughter just today.
No, I mean, like, about this. Is that, okay. So no one's gonna know until we will be making that notification, so.
They're going to tell me.
Okay, well.
Yes, they're down the road. They're going to tell me. His kids are going to tell me in Philadelphia. They're going to tell me. This was not intentional.
Okay.
They're not going to understand that. They're not going to accept it.
We're gonna do a thorough investigation, and we will definitely make sure that you don't feel scared when we need to, okay?
And my 9-year-old.
Or he's at school and he's with your husband.
I know, well,
Ex-husband.
Your husband said that, your ex-husband said he made arrangements for your mom to pick up.
Oh, okay, Mom.
All right, we're gonna go aside.
Yes, please, but can you guys, so I know what's going on. And don't,
All you have to do is get their attention if you have a question, you need to talk to us. He's standing right there, she'll be right here.
yeah, okay, but will you guys tell me, like, so you're telling me, like, you won't call whoever it is without telling me, right? I mean, I have all their phone.
We're not calling, we're not making phone calls, we're actually gonna speak to them in person. We
That'll
are.
be later on.
It'll be later.
Prior to us making.
I'm not gonna be here. They're going to tell me.
We'll address all of that, okay, before we leave.
Okay? This was.
Okay? Okay. Thank you.
Just stay seated, okay, sir? I know you're panicking, okay? Just relax. We'll come to talk to you. We'll keep checking on you.
While you were at the scene, did you also make contact with Brian Boone?
Yes,
Did you take a statement from him as well?
I did.
Were all your interactions with the defendant on that day captured on your body worn camera?
Yes.
I have no additional questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
No questions, Judge.
Is this witness released?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You're released, not subject to recall, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can the parties approach for a moment? 3:21 at this time. We're going to go ahead and take that afternoon regularly scheduled break. I'm going to ask you to come back here in 15 minutes at 3:37. Similar instructions that I've given you previously. Please don't just conduct any independent investigation or research as the person, places, things, or charge involved, and do not have any discussions amongst yourselves or anyone else. I thank you for your service. And we are back on the record, case number 2020 CF 2603, State of Florida versus Sarah Boone. Let me get appearances for the state.
Dave Kester on behalf of the state.
William J. for the state.
Defense.
James Owens for the state. Tony Henderson for Sarah Boone.
All right. Ms. Boone is still seated at counsel's table, wearing the same black suit and pink blouse from this morning. State, anything we need to address before we bring back in our panel?
Not for the state.
Defense.
No, sir.
All right, let's go ahead and stand and we can bring back in our panel. You may be seated.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you recognize our jury?
Yes.
Members of the jury, again, if you could please raise your hand, showing that you complied with the court's instructions during our last break. All right, the record reflects all jurors have raised their hands. State, you may call your next witness.
State will call Deputy John Martinez.
Sir, good afternoon. Can you state and spell your name for the record for us? Thanks, sir. You may be seated. Thank you. You may inquire, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Tell us, who is it that you work for?
Orange County Sheriff's Office,
And what is your position with the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Deputy Sheriff.
How long have you been with the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
I'm going on my 16th year.
Prior to working for the Orange County Sheriff's Office, do you have any previous law enforcement experience?
I do.
And where was that?
I first started my career with the New York City Police Department,
And how long were you with the New York City Police Department?
about 10 years.
And what was your position with the New York City Police Department?
I was a police officer.
And at the sheriff's office, tell us, what are some of your duties as a deputy sheriff?
Respond to calls of service. My primary function is the school resource officer.
And is continuing training a condition of your employment with the sheriff's office?
It is.
Tell us, how is it that you became involved in this case?
I was dispatched to this location.
And what was this location?
It was located at 4748 France Lane, apartment number 3.
And is that here in Orange County, Florida?
It is.
And when you responded to that location, who did you first come into contact with?
I came in contact with Miss Sarah Boone.
Do you see Sarah Boone here in court today?
I do.
Could you please point to her and identify an article of clothing she's wearing?
The lady sitting in the middle with the black blazer.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant?
Record will so reflect.
During the time that you were on the scene, did you have a body-worn camera?
I did.
And was that body-worn camera activated?
It was.
Were all your contacts with Ms. Boone recorded on that body-worn camera?
It was.
Were other deputies also on the scene at that time?
Yes.
And was Deputy Rodriguez there?
She was.
So would both of your body worn cameras both captured some of the same time frames?
Correct, yes.
Did you have an occasion to go inside of the apartment?
I did.
And inside of the apartment, what observations did you make?
When I first entered the apartment, I noticed a Hispanic male laying on his back and looks like a small nook dining area. Later identified Mr. George Torres.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness who's been previously marked for identification as states K and been shown to defense?
You may.
Sir, I'm showing you it's been marked for identification as states K. Do you recognize that disc?
I do.
Tell us, what is that disc?
Is a copy of my body worn camera.
And does this body worn camera fairly and accurately depict the portion of the events that took place on February 24th, 2020?
It does.
And are those your initials on the disc?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move what's previously been marked for identification as states K into evidence.
Any objections? No objection. What was pre-marked as states K will be received into evidence without objection as state 7.
Your Honor, request permission to publish.
You may. Madam Clerk, can you dim the lights?
She wants to say something.
That'll be first thing tomorrow morning. I'll know a lot, hopefully a lot more tomorrow morning as far as him. But I cannot, there's no way I can say how, why. So just by looking at him, like, why is he purple? That's normal when someone passes away.
I'm like really scared. I want you guys to know that.
Well, we have all these evidences, so we're here, nothing's gonna happen. Before we go and make any notifications, you'll have plenty of time to read or do whatever you need to do, okay? We can talk about that more in time, but, yeah, you. We're not trying to be a surprise.
But like, I don't, like, this was totally like not intentional. Like, that's what I'm scared about too, like.
We'll have all the answers, we'll have a lot more answers tomorrow. What you're seeing here is common. This is us coming out. Yeah, it's no real medical history that we know of. For them to have passed away, we cannot.
I know.
We cannot do an investigation. Medical examiner on this is what we did. If he was 75 years old and had his heart condition, we wouldn't be here.
I don't know what it is.
Exactly, and that's what we're here to find out. We're just here to get the answers. The answers that you want, the answers that families
I
don't want.
really want to see my stuff. I really want to see my stuff. I mean, I know I can't go anywhere, but it's right. So do I just like get out here and wait for you guys? Anybody else having to show up or wait here that needs to be here? My team's here, that needs to be here. The medical examiners will show up when we call them, but we're not ready to do it yet. So they're gonna take him, they're gonna take the photos, take him. That's towards the end of it, and they'll be called well in advance when we're ready for them, but we're not ready for them at this point. So we won't be calling you right yet. Okay? So like I said, I gotta go do some paperwork, they're gonna chat, with some people, and then we're gonna come back and talk to you if you're okay with that. So just give us a little bit more time, like I said, and we don't do that.
So, like, you guys tell his family, like, today or after tomorrow?
You have to. Our investigation is pretty much complete here. Once we leave here, we will be going.
But again, I'm not gonna just go and do it, but you know, do another. Talk to you about it, anything like that.
But how, I mean, I understand what you guys and how you do it, and, you know, so, but like, what are you just telling them? What do you tell his parents? Like, what's the reason as to why?
You tell them we know about them. You tell them the truth.
And that we're gonna be waiting for the autopsy results, and I will get the autopsy in the morning. And hopefully the doctor will be able to give me some of what they think and see.
Their number, they can contact them, you know.
But yeah, they're gonna know what we're here, what we're investigating, and that we're still, they're gonna think I killed him. They always have said that. They've always have said that.
I told you, because I'm the blue-eyed white giant, that's what they call me, because they don't want him with me. So he's basically just not really been around his family because he chooses me over them. Even after I encouraged him numerous times to go there and see his family.
Do you have somewhere safe that you can go tonight?
Both my parents are deceased, my grandparents are deceased, my aunt and uncle are deceased. I got notice. I have a brother that's in the Marines, and I have another one that's in jail.
Unless you run it at Marine local?
No. Well, he's in Altamont, but I think he's doing whatever Marine he's doing. But the only way.
Your phone's inside, correct?
Yeah.
Does he have a phone?
No.
He does not. He used my phone. He used your phone.
The sheriff. So the only place I could go is over to Brad's house. So I don't think I have a problem with it. So,
well, like I said, we're not gonna leave here. If you do not feel safe, you're not gonna leave here if you're not done with it. And then we're like,
and then so I'm in Philadelphia.
well, she's in Philadelphia because
There's gonna be a funeral.
right. forth about what if like all day long. I know, so I promise we're not gonna leave here for you and you not feel safe. Please. I don't even know what to tell you. It's okay, just take a seat, have some water, give us a few minutes, let us start thing, and we'll be back to talk to you, I promise, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, yeah. Okay.
You have anyone in there?
There's nobody here, just me.
Okay, that's fine. You can, you're right there.
Yeah.
Sit there, take your time. I have relief coming.
No further questions.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
No, sir.
Can this witness be released?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
Thank you, sir. You're released, not subject to recall. Thank you.
Thank you.
State, you may call your next witness.
State would call Melissa Roughgarden.
Ma'am, good afternoon. Can you state and spell your name for the record for us?
Melissa Roughgarden, Melissa Roughgarden.
Thank you. Counselor, you may inquire.
Ma'am, who do you work for?
I'm employed with the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your position with the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Currently, I am a forensic biologist with the forensics unit. Prior to this, I was a crime scene investigator for 5 years.
And how long in total have you been with the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
About 6.5 years.
And tell us all the positions you've held during that time.
Those two, a crime scene investigator and a forensic biologist.
Let's turn to your work as a crime scene investigator. What does a crime scene investigator do?
We respond to crime scenes. We photograph and document those crime scenes through photographs, notes, and sometimes sketches. We collect evidence, we process the scene, and then we do further processing to that evidence back at our forensics lab.
When you say process evidence or process the scene, can you tell us what that entails?
It depends on the scene and the evidence, but it includes the photographs. We also take swabs for potential DNA. We can also do testing for possible blood and things like that. We also process for latent fingerprints, among other things.
What type of training did you need in order to become a crime scene investigator?
Upon being hired with the sheriff's office, as a CSI, I completed a 16-week training program, which includes in-house processing, as well as going out to crime scenes with trained crime scene investigators to observe and then assist, as well as taking on calls with the trained crime scene investigator.
Approximately how many crime scenes have you processed in the course of your time as a CSI?
It would be hundreds. I don't know the exact amount.
Were you working in this capacity as a CSI on February 24th, 2020?
Yes, I was.
And tell us, where did you respond out to on that day?
I responded to 4748 Franz Court, apartment 3.
is that in Orange County, Florida?
Yes, it is.
And when you responded to that scene, whom did you make contact with?
I made contact with the homicide detective, Chelsea Ketzel.
Did you receive information from the detective?
Yes, that it was a death investigation.
Did you walk the scene with the detective?
Yes.
And tell us, what does it mean to walk the scene with the detective in a homicide?
We go into the scene and just observe. We don't interact with anything and discuss what we see.
When you walked this scene, did you see George Torres?
Yes, I did.
Where was he located?
He was located on the floor in the living room of the apartment.
Did you, with the detective, identify potential items of evidence to be collected?
Yes.
You had mentioned previously about documenting scenes with photographs. Was that done in this case?
Yes, it was.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness who's been marked for identification as States M and been shown to defense?
May.
Ma'am, I'm showing you who's been marked for identification as States M. Can you take a look at the contents of State M to yourself and tell me if you recognize the items contained within States M? Do you recognize the contents of States M?
Yes, I do.
Tell us, what is the contents of State M?
They are photographs I took on the crime scene.
Do they fairly and accurately represent how that crime scene appeared on February 24th, 2020?
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move what's previously been marked for identification as States M into evidence.
How many photographs are there? Do you have a
111.
total? No objection.
All right. What was pre-marked as States M will be received into evidence without objection as States 8.
Your Honor, request permission to publish.
You may.
Bernard, could we have the lights dim?
Yes.
And I'm first going to publish to you as part of States M. Picture photo number 4. Tell us, what is this?
This is the front door to the residence.
Stage 5.
This is also the front door of the residence, just a closer image to the door. Just inside the door. So this is the counter with the sink in the kitchen, and there's also the photographs. Yes, they weren't all individually photographed. No.
And you did not document or note any type of holes in the wall or any type of damage to the walls, anything like that?
Not the walls, no.
Is that something that would have been documented both photographically and also within your report?
Yes.
You also, as we've previously seen in the composite, saw the victim where he was laying in this case, correct?
Yes.
Was the victim, did he have blood on his mouth and on his face?
Yes, he did.
Did he have open wounds on his body?
There was blood coming from his nose and his mouth. There was also some other areas, like defects noted on his body.
You also made contact with the defendant too, as well.
Yes.
Did you note any other wounds or cuts or anything else that was not documented that you haven't testified to?
No.
So no wounds, nothing on her.
Not that I recall, no.
No further questions.
Thank you. Can this witness be released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Owens, can this witness be released?
Judge, we'd like her to be on call.
Subject to recall, ma'am. Thank you. Can the parties approach? Members of the jury, thank you so much for your attention in this matter. It is 4:52. At this time, we're going to go ahead and take our recess for the evening. Madam Clerk has letters that I have signed regarding your jury service for you to provide to your employer. Court deputy will provide them to you in the deliberation room before you are released for the day. I have a similar instruction to read to you that I gave you before the lunch hour. Jurors, you must not conduct any investigation on your own. This includes reading newspapers, watching television, or using a computer, cell phone, the internet, any electronic device, or any other means at all. This applies whether you are in the courthouse, at home, or anywhere else. You must not visit places mentioned in the trial or use the internet to look at maps or pictures to see any place discussed during the trial. Jurors, do not watch local news or read local newspapers. Jurors must not have discussions of any sort with friends, family members, or even your fellow jurors about the case or the people and places involved. So do not let anyone make comments to you or ask questions about the trial. We want to stress again that just as you must not talk about this case face-to-face, you must not talk about this case by using an electronic device. You must not use phones, computers, or other electronic devices to communicate. Do not send or accept any messages related to this case or your jury service. Do not discuss this case or ask for advice by any means at all, including posting information on an internet website, chat room, or blog. With that, members of the jury, I'm going to release you back to the deliberation room for you to receive the paperwork for your employer, and we will see you at 9 a.m. this coming Monday, October 21st. I thank you for your sacrifice and your service. You all may be seated. Thank you. State, anything else we need to discuss?
Not from the state.
Defense. All right. Thank you all very much. We will see you at 9 a.m. Monday, October 21. We're off the record.
Okay, so we made it through. It was 3.5 hours, much more than I thought it was going to be, but we made it. So we will talk more about it tomorrow. It's already 12:30. I need to go to bed. I got to work in the morning. So thank you for watching with me. I appreciate it. And tomorrow we'll have a discussion about it, okay? Please hit the thumbs up before you leave. If you haven't subscribed, I hope that you will. And we will talk about this little chickadee tomorrow. Everybody sleep well. Bye-bye.